and then we'll respect everybody's time who showed up. So, I was not at the last meeting, but Tom filled me in, so we're just gonna do the same procedure, and if, I need to change anything, just let me know. So, we'll start at page 33, which is where you guys left off, and we'll go around the table and do, yes?
I just want to add what
Yeah.
you're doing.
Sure. Okay, we'll take turns doing one item for that section, and then we'll come back around.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Susan and I just want to give a really quick update because we're doing the copy of
Yes,
it.
please.
So, it is editing enabled, it is not technically in Word. So the text we can manipulate within the graphics. It's not, it's not that straightforward, so it's a little more intensive, but we only have maybe roughly 17 pages left to do. So, yeah, you're listening.
It's not in Word or it is?
It's not in Word the way we would think of Word. It is enabled, it's called editing enabled within the formatting
You
of
want
all
to
the
send it to me, I'll
graphics.
still see if I can get it to what you want, if it'll help.
We've been all down the path, seriously,
Okay.
and I appreciate that, honestly, but
Pretty good
it's,
tools.
yeah, no, I know. Okay, so, but we're almost done anyway.
But are you trying to rewrite it as you go? Or?
No, the only thing we're doing is copy editing.
Yeah, make clear.
Yeah, just clarity,
Right.
yeah, like, if I see another Jared.
So we're still gonna have to do the rewriting.
Well, we are. I mean, this is why we're up to page 33. Everything that everybody came up with and agreed to last week that should go in for clarity, we put in.
Yeah.
So as you guys, want stuff added in,
So
we'll
you
put it in.
change the
We
title
will.
of the section, et cetera.
Well, some of the times we can't change because of the graphic format, but we have it notated so we can sit down with Molly and say, this is where you need to do it.
You've captured.
Yes, we're
it in some way.
capturing
It's there.
information, and the other,
Notes.
there was something else I was just gonna say, the
Can
other.
it be redlined or not, so people can see
No.
changes,
No, you can't do it, so, but
It's
it'll
proprietary
become
stuff.
apparent as soon as you read it, it's like, oh, okay, now I understand what this entire page meant, It's just more straight up stuff like that. There's no changing of things unless the group, as I said last week, agreed that something wasn't right, or remember we threw out a whole graphics chart at one point,
Right.
stuff like that. We can't take that chart out, but we have a notation to pass on, to take it out, because otherwise we screw up the whole graphics format for the entire document.
Well, they're gonna have to change the whole graphic.
They will,
Yeah,
that's their job, they're consultants,
Okay.
And then the only other thing is, people have been sending, thank you, their comments and edits, like Renee sent information because she couldn't be here. All of that will be incorporated in as well for the group to see.
Great, so do you want me to say those things out loud, or like?
Yeah, why don't you let
Renee?
Renee just sent them just a
Yeah.
few people, but everybody needs to hear.
Okay, all
Yeah,
right.
when we get to
So all of
that.
that, yeah, and
Yeah.
Tom sent me some things, I have like
Oh, okay,
several
good,
people's
fabulous,
items.
fabulous.
Okay, so let's start out at 33. It's the community of diverse and engaged citizens. Susan, do you want to see that section, one section at a time? I guess, how did you do it? Did you do that whole section? Yeah, 3 pages, basically.
Right,
Okay.
right. So again, this was just what a copy editor would do, and consistency and, not referring so much to as the village as a person.
Mhm.
Little things like that. So those are just some edits. That's all I had.
Yeah, that was
That's all-
definitely edited, I
that's
think,
all
on
I
this
had.
page.
Right, so,
Yeah, no content change.
Did we already change the title and the picture last time?
Of this?
for the community of diverse and engaged citizens, did you want to change
What
the
page is
title
that?
last
Right
time? Was
before.
that-
Oh, I must have.
32?
All right, so 32 is the beginning of that section.
We
It's a
didn't like that
picture.
picture.
Oh,
We didn't
yeah.
like,
Yeah, that's right.
we
So,
didn't care for the
So we-
picture, and we didn't think that community of diverse engaged citizens was the right title.
well, are we going around with each person?
Let's-
or
yes,
is it
let's
a
do
small
that.
enough group to have it?
Let's stick to that, let's stick to that, yeah.
More coordinated.
No, I'm good.
Okay.
So,
The other question I have is on page 34, number 1.
Okay.
It wasn't clear what establish a community outreach position, is that suggesting a new paid position? Or is it a role of one of our staff or volunteer? I just think, and I don't know the answer, but I think we need to think about what we're asking or suggesting.
Do you think what I recall us discussing was we were going to have volunteer we were trying to pull citizens into doing certain kinds of jobs, so that would not necessarily be a
So
paid
some-
position.
So this
Well, it's
is,
interesting because I read it as a paid position.
So did
So I
I.
think Susan
That's
maybe
the
tried to
advertising.
clarify
She
that.
read it, and that wasn't.
right, so the edit turned out to be established community outreach program.
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay.
Because,
Or
Right.
say establish a volunteer committee outreach program.
because if you look at the, because what's under local partners, you know, it just, it looks like it's more collaborative,
Mhm.
right.
in terms of how it's been identified. That was my thought,
Yeah.
you know? And I do agree program is really the more
Yes.
optimal.
I think so.
It's general.
Yeah,
And it relates to engaged citizens.
yes, yeah.
So,
Thanks,
and
Dave.
that's a good example of what.
Things like
What
just
you're doing, yeah.
clarifying.
That was the only change I really had in that section.
Okay, thanks, Dave. Peter?
I have nothing.
Okay. Did Peggy have anything for that section?
She said she was gonna send it to you.
And she copied you too. She said, Peter, I thought she said, Peter, can you be my proxy? Let me look through it.
Oh, you must have
I'm
missed
not
that
very good
part.
at being a proxy, but I'll look at it.
So, all right, let's see. I haven't read through it because she just sent it about half an hour ago. So, let's see. It's sort of copy editing stuff. So maybe like the page 33, I think she has a little bit of copy editing with the words. Page 34, take out local partners and add website community members.
Where are we on
Page
that?
34, 1A1.
Thank
she
you.
says. Sorry.
Oh, in the same, okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Is this the kind of level you want to talk about, or is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All the time.
All right. So she says, well, first she says, omit, establish a community outreach position, which is what we said, maintain, she says, which I don't
Oh,
know.
start with maintain.
Yeah,
I don't think
well,
maintain
I don't
is the
think we
right
have
verb.
one, so
We don't
I
have.
think
No,
you were right to
there's nothing
change
to
it to
maintain.
program, right? Take out the local partners and add website community members.
Website,
What?
community?
What?
Or add that in addition to.
Where,
That's what it says, so,
say it again?
and maybe she has a different vision for what the program would
I
be,
don't know about website, community members.
I don't know what that
Is
means.
that a chat group?
I don't know the answer
Okay,
to that.
so we have for Peggy a question mark.
Yeah, all right.
In other
Okay.
words, she would need to.
Maintaining a calendar, I don't think we need to specify the platform it's on. It could be a website, and I think that's something that action groups would determine how to carry it out.
Well, certainly could be an enhancement to the village's website, for that matter.
If you just change the position word to program.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
It seems like
clarifies a little
that.
bit.
All right.
To establish.
We don't have to have all the specifics at this
Mhm.
point, we just need
Right, I
to,
think that's what's going to happen subsequent to this.
yeah.
Mhm. Yeah,
Figure the best way to do it might be on a platform at a time.
Okay.
yeah, or both. Yeah, good
So-
point, very good point.
All right, let me just finish this
Mhm.
short section that she said, B1 on page 34, omit Twitter, add appropriate social media. This definitely requires village board, I guess, BB action, as it is a policy decision.
You just take the word Twitter out, so Facebook and other social media. Yep.
B2, this also requires village board action, it says.
Can
Yeah,
I go back a minute
Is
to
that okay?
Facebook,
Does
Twitter,
that
and
sound
social media? In 10 years, it won't be Facebook, Twitter, and.
So I
it'll
think
be
she's
social
saying
media.
maybe just change it to social
Why
media.
don't you say social media, because I
Yeah,
think you're
just
right,
social
Joanne.
media.
Yeah, then we
That's
can
just the
shorten it up
short,
anyways,
yeah.
it's not so long.
Yeah,
So increase the use of
I
social
think maybe
media.
Facebook for now is pretty safe at this point. for-
Facebook
10
is
years?
social media, I mean, I'm just thinking like,
Yeah, I
if you
think
wanted
Facebook
to
and
identify
social
as the
media.
entire category of social media, Facebook would be a subset.
Mhm.
Well, we already have it. We have a village
I
Facebook.
know, but in
Right,
10 years.
and that's under our social media category. I just think I would rather be more generic.
Yeah.
Peter, you raised that the last time, remember what was identified, you raised a good point? Oh, the Waddams house or something, something was called out by his,
Well, I think
by a brand
we're calling out too many specific things.
Yeah, that's
as
what-
opposed to-
yeah.
We were calling out groups, we were calling out people, we were calling about addresses.
This is the
we were
use
calling
of
out-
social
Yeah,
media.
social media,
accounts.
in other words, that covers the universe of what
Okay.
would be available,
I'm
you
good.
know?
Right, okay.
Out. Yeah.
All right.
Social media.
That's helpful. I don't know, it says B2, this also requires village board action. I don't know if
They're
that,
both the same. Why do you need both?
That was my comment.
Well,
One
social
is
media
you,
isn't necessarily the
Village
same as
board.
communications. That might be sending things out
But it's
electronically.
included.
It's,
Right.
social media is communicating. I
Yeah,
really
what
think
is
they're the
I don't
same
consider
thing.
email
That's
something
also-
social media.
One is a subset of two. mine.
It's
Yeah,
not
or you
the
could
same.
just say maintain the ongoing electronic communications channels and combine the two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can do
Okay.
that, that's a copy of it,
Okay.
you guys, okay, so Susan
Okay.
and I are gonna make another
And then I
copy.
would say yes to village board.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, I would agree.
And then-
So, and copy of it. Okay.
And then for B4, she said, no, this should read, publicized schedule and summaries of periodic meetings of the leadership team. The mayor and supervisor should report their discussions to the respective boards and not directly to the public. These reports can then be recorded officially in the village board minutes.
Wow.
That's like parentheses of it, so it says, no, this should read publicized schedule and summaries of periodic meetings of the leadership team. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Well,
Be
what leader?
publicized
That's-
schedule
Well,
and summaries of
you don't
periodic
have
No,
the team
because
identified.
this says the village and the town right now, and she's, I
The
think she's
leadership
talking about the
team is the
village
school.
leadership team.
It's school, town, village.
School, town, and village is the leadership
Yeah.
team.
But
So
it's
that's
not
what
identified
There
anywhere
are
else.
actually monthly meetings with the school, though, there are between
No.
the village and the town, there's more common.
There are monthly meetings, I
issues.
used to be on the leadership team, and it's the school
With the
district, the village, and the town.
Do they meet monthly though?
Yes.
Do they?
Gee, how come we haven't got?
I mean, sometimes they don't, depending on
School pulled
schedules,
in.
but the goal is to meet monthly. But there's nowhere that it's identified as a leadership team,
Mhm.
so you would have to define that in a way.
Right.
Just
You know.
define the membership in parentheses.
I'm not
Yeah,
sure
maybe
why
you
you
could
need
take
to
that
follow
note
They're
and
not
then
public-
see
they're
how
not
you
public
Why don't we
meetings,
copy,
though.
I'm sorry.
They're not public meetings, I don't think.
No, but the notes
So I would
can be
just
made
say-
public.
Summarize, report on monthly meetings.
I mean, do we want people to attend? That, it says
It's
schedule.
not something to attend publicly, it doesn't have to be.
No, so the
it's-
schedule
no,
doesn't
So
really.
schedule doesn't fit.
No.
Just having been a member of the leadership team, I can tell you, it is simply, like, what are you up to? This is where we're at, this is what we're gonna do. It's more like just everybody kind of understanding on the same page where the school district is or whatever. It's more so like that. There's no action items that come out of it. And if there were, then that would be something that would be of public interest per se. It's more an internal dialogue. However, the notes of the meetings certainly could be made public. They're elected officials and,
No, they're very informal. I did that
Yeah.
in the village and the town, and we might be talking about where are you on an active transportation?
Mhm.
We're working on a comp plan, where's yours time-wise? There's not a whole lot to report in detail, but I just think there should be some report. I don't think notes per
I
se.
think we're all in agreement, so
It's
why don't
too formal.
Susan and I will copy it a
Thank
little
you.
bit to
Yes.
make sure that people
And the
understand what the
partners
leadership
are gonna
team
be
is.
right.
The report really goes back to your board, and then that would be incorporated in the minutes of the board.
One of the problems we're having here is you're not just giving one idea from Peggy, you're giving about 5 or 6.
Well, yes, this is her, she has sent a lot, so if you want, we can keep going around the table. I did that for Peter because he said he didn't have any, but if you want, you can go.
You share more of these pages, or?
Yeah, there's one more on this section. and
Okay,
then-
why don't we finish that up
Okay.
then?
So it says for B5, omit the section.
Omit it?
Omit it.
Which item? 5?
B5.
Yeah, I don't know why you,
Why would you,
Omit entire action, it says. So,
that's been ongoing for like 40 years, everybody.
so
kind
why is it an action
I
item?
don't think I would publicize it from a policy standpoint, I'll be honest. It's a friendship kind of
It's,
thing.
it's an
If
example
someone
of
wanted to really get
municipal,
sticky, they say, why don't they pay
collaboration.
town taxes to
I don't
let
see the
them
harm
use our
in
equipment?
that.
But,
I don't
I don't see any good to publicize everything when it's appropriate.
I don't see it as positive or negative, I just don't know that it's useful.
But it can be negative if someone wants to really be a nitpicker, saying, oh, you use their road grader for a day? I didn't pay my tax for the village to use it. But sometimes we help them out. It's more
Yeah.
of a,
But it's identified, and just so you know, it's an identified document that's signed every year between the two municipalities to agree to collaborate between DPW and things like that, or
but it's
for
not real
community events.
specific.
But I think we're all saying the same thing, right? We don't
I
care about
would just believe
publicizing
it.
it.
I don't think it adds anything.
I mean, I don't know that it helps anybody, you know?
I'm not gonna argue on that.
Yeah.
I feel like- All right. All right, so Janet, why don't you take your turn?
I don't think this title fits what's in here. We were
Okay,
just
where-
talking.
you
So
want
what's
on
the,
the
what's
phone?
the suggestion?
Yeah.
She's on.
Oh,
Any page
this
has
is
a
my
title
number.
on it.
Yeah, gotcha, okay.
A community of diverse, engaged citizens. This whole section we just went through is talking about community outreach, and collaboration, and we used to have something, the words collaborate, somewhere in one section, maybe they're not there anymore. Maybe somehow it got put in here. But that doesn't seem like it fits, a community of diverse, engaged
What
citizens.
sounds good then? What are you thinking?
Well, my problem is I don't know if it's somewhere else.
Like
I
community?
don't think it should say diverse. I like the engaged citizens and,
You wanna say
and the
community
collaborative.
engagement?
Community engagement.
I think like the diversity thing has come up several times and it's a very big issue right now.
I know, but
So-
there isn't
I
an
know, but-
action item right
Well,
now.
that's what, if
We
you
can
get
put it
around
in, that's
to
why
me,
we're
then
at it.
I'll get to my point, which is
Yeah.
to add certain parts that speak to the diversity. So I can wait till that time, but
That would be
if
good.
you would like to take it out, that can be your
Okay, then we can go
statement
back to
right
what the
now.
title should be.
Yeah, maybe
Sure.
after we finish editing,
Sure.
we have a title that. There we go.
Moving along.
And then,
Would you like to?
Yeah, a couple things. 33, under D, welcome new residents, families, and stakeholders. I would scratch families because if you're
It's the
welcoming
same
new
thing.
residents.
Resident is
Yeah.
family maybe.
Who would they be?
it's from the department,
Yeah.
we've done the same department.
Yeah.
And then on 34, I have a couple of things. Under local partners, I guess I'm not sure,
Where are you, what number, what?
any of them.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Mhm.
Are we
Oh, the
going
category.
to continue to list
Yeah.
specific?
Or just
Because
say
if
local
so,
partners.
historic Pittsburgh is conspicuously
Yeah,
absent,
Yes.
there's a lot
where it
that
should
is,
be,
yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome, really?
including 1 and 2,
Mhm.
and elsewhere. So I just wasn't sure
Which
whether,
page is this?
I'm on 34,
Okay,
under A.
Right.
We should add historic Pittsburgh to 1 and 2. And then also on number 2, under A, my vision of a community kiosk or a bulletin board is this really messy thing with thumbtacks and, is that what we're really thinking about here? Or are we thinking electronic?
No.
Or
Number 2.
what are we thinking? Because, you go in a coffee shop and you see that bulletin board and it's, in one day, it's a mess, because anybody can stick something up there, who's gonna monitor it?
FOPD, oh, you know
No.
what, wasn't this was Amy's
So
suggestion?
what are we
Amy
really
was
talking about?
Provide it, I don't know, it's a good
It's-
point.
I
I
know we already talked
think
about
it's
that.
talked about
Community organization.
sign it, like wayfinding signage, but
Yeah,
I don't know
yeah,
if
but
it's
that's
the
different
same
from a kiosk.
kiosk, the
This is
same.
definitely.
Is
No,
there
I know what you're
something
saying,
thing,
I know, and then there's like a notice of a
Is
concert.
that something for a follow-up group?
But nobody can, if it's public, nobody's monitoring that, and so you got lost caps and you got,
Well, it could be
Telling
behind the
myself,
glass or
yeah.
encasement.
I mean, I'm not against it, I just think we maybe need more clarity about what this means.
what it is.
Isn't it maybe a post-action though, a committee to look at how they do it? What's the
Sure,
best
sure, I
way?
mean, in other words, we like in the idea where I think
Right.
something should be
It
explored,
might be-
How about investigate?
investigate instead of
Okay.
install. Does that make sense?
Check.
Investigate community
Look into
chaos,
it.
Yeah, sure.
research,
Yeah.
investigates it.
You know,
Yeah, consider use of.
Yeah,
Mhm.
okay.
it's not my turn.
And I'm gonna put a note in the
Can I
corner for
just
me to
say-
ask Amy for
Got me to
clarification.
read these
Thanks.
again? What this says on this page about our objectives and our policy statement, 33.
Okay.
Most of these action items have nothing to do with. Read it. Read what it says at the top of the page.
Well, that's,
That doesn't mention collaborating with other governments, it doesn't mention a whole bunch of these things. This page and these action items are not the same. That doesn't mean this page is right.
I don't agree, I
Where do you see it? Where do you see it in either A through D or in the policy statement?
Things may not be called
There's also-
intergovernmental,
There's
but
also that section, it's collaborative local government,
Yeah,
that's
Well,
lower
that's where those
down.
belong then.
So which ones, can you point to which ones you're talking about when you say those ones? Can we list
The
the
ones that
numbers?
are talking about collaborative rather than engaged citizens, let's see.
Well, C has a lot of it.
Yeah, C is,
And if you look at C,
Well,
two,
some of
it
that.
kind of answers a lot of the stuff we were kicking around earlier about implementation really.
Oh, like
you're on page 35?
I like
Yeah.
B4,
Oh, yeah, just like-
publicize summaries of periodic monthly meetings, that's clearly collaborative.
Well, some things might fit two places, but
I don't think there should be a problem of mentioning things in more than one place throughout a plan like this.
Well, as long as they're somewhere.
As long as there's, well, as long, okay, one, as long as there's somewhere, but two, for the sake of continuity, that you're seeing this and that it's reinforced maybe in a different section, in a different way. You know, and that's not uncommon in a plan as large as this.
Now, this section is about citizenship,
Yeah.
citizen, but the later section is
Citizens of the
government
village,
and entity.
yeah.
Right, I mean, so the collaboration is focused on more organization, government, this is on individuals.
You know, this is individuals.
There is overlap, there's gonna be.
Yeah, there's
I think
always gonna
they-
overlap, sure. Sure.
Are we going on to page 35 as part of this section?
Yeah.
Sure, do you wanna, should we keep, can I, I'm not entirely sure how you guys did this last time, so I don't wanna like cut people off,
It
but
was a larger
it's like
group
one,
last-
one,
It was a
one.
larger group last time, everybody got to say the one
One
thing.
thing, okay.
But we're a
is it one-
smaller group, and I think we're a
It's
little more
working,
interactive.
okay, so why don't you do 35 too, and then we'll,
Well, it's all the same section.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so on C, empower the resident voice.
Hmm. Does it feel awkward,
But
it's
we
awkward
copy
wording?
edited that.
Yeah.
That's been copy edited.
Oh, okay, great. Then I'm okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's really content, like what's not explained properly or what's left out or needs to go.
Okay, and then, action items 1 and 3,
Under C?
under C.
Okay.
They're really very, very similar. You know, one is you're planning events to interact directly with elected and appointed officials, and 3, you're hosting forums with the village board. So, I guess they're different,
Yeah.
but they're,
Because 3 is a subset of 1. You know,
Because it's the board
Well,
specifically.
I mean, you could
Versus-
have a semi-annual village event, which is a social kind of an event. And you also could have a forum, which is sit down and talk,
okay,
About
whatever.
a particular topic.
Yeah, I
That's fine,
guess.
I'm not gonna,
but maybe combine it
Belabor
together or
that.
something.
yeah, we could look at that from a copy editing standpoint, if it should be.
Maybe one
it's
just
not,
goes
it's
out,
not
three
huge, it
covers
just
it.
jumped out at me.
Yeah.
But I
Okay.
would ask a question on number 1, under C, the local partners. If this is an event about interacting with elected and appointed officials, why is Friends of Pittsburgh Village there?
Well, those, we said they're gonna change all of these. These are far too
Okay, I
specific.
asked that
Yeah, I
question.
think we
before.
Yeah, I know you
talked
do.
about
Okay.
earlier.
All right, so then I need to
Yeah.
stop and,
It's like elected officials,
Right.
civic groups.
So are we adding more, or we're taking out all of these groups and we're just saying local partners?
These are
That's
too
what-
specific.
In other
Yeah.
words, we wouldn't say anywhere in this document, Friends of Pittsburgh Village.
Yeah.
We would say a civic group. It could be
Okay,
any
but
civic.
it's-
That's not
It
a
could be the
particular
biking
citizen
group,
group.
it could be the biking group.
okay,
it
then
could
that
be-
would include Historic Pittsburgh, and that would be fine.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, that's what I was
Could be
trying to
senior
get at, was are we
citizens.
adding historic Pittsburgh, or are we just gonna use
I'm
title,
just
you
gonna
know?
use
Well,
generic,
we'll
Generic
put in
titles, okay.
civic groups.
Okay, excellent,
Okay, that's great.
because they'll change over time, you
Yeah.
know, and it's kind of.
I think that makes sense. Did you have something else?
One last thing, on the very last under D, to develop a welcome package. And maybe we don't need to do this. Are we talking about something that's gonna be mailed? Are we talking about a
Typically,
basket like we
typically,
used to do
it's
back
this
in
little
the day?
folder that you get with something about historic Pittsburgh, maybe something about your home, something about our village government. I mean, I got one when
I
I moved
got one,
in.
but from
Yeah.
the town, I think.
Yeah, oh, really?
I
Okay,
think so.
okay.
Or
I know that the
one, but-
village has been a little hit more hit or miss in the village in
Yeah,
terms
it
of.
was nice though.
who- It is
It was
nice,
a really
in
nice
terms of who's
touch.
responsible.
Yeah,
for
Is
it was like
doing
the
it.
supervisor's letter.
Or
I
it
feel
delivered to
like
you?
either someone put it in our
We don't
mailbox or
know.
it was mailed. It was
That's
like a big
specific.
manila envelope and it had like phone
Yeah.
numbers for all the local groups, like
Yeah,
the Rotary and the art
Yeah,
groups
exactly.
and
You could,
stuff
you
like
could
that.
say provide a
Yeah.
welcome for new residents.
It was a very nice touch. I was like, oh.
Once it's explained to me what it,
Yeah,
to me,
maybe
I'm
it's
fine.
like clarity
I
on
just,
summarize.
I didn't
You know,
understand
information,
whether we
like,
were expecting somebody to
information
actually go
links.
deliver.
Right.
that's what happened to me.
It
Tim
might have.
Galley showed up at my
Yeah,
house,
it
he
might
said
have.
he was an elected official at the time.
What's going on?
He said, hi, my name is Tim Galley, I'm a trustee in the
Yeah,
village
I
of
think,
Pittsburgh. Welcome, here's your.
I think Frank Galusha dropped ours.
Or Frank,
actually,
yeah, in
because-
others, we
And I don't think I
turns.
was there, but I talked to him
Yeah.
after the fact
Yeah.
and he was like, oh, did you get
Yeah,
it?
and it's a
I was
nice
like,
thing.
it was the village.
It is the
Okay.
village, I would
Yeah.
almost guarantee it.
It was nice.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
I don't think we need to be that specific.
Yeah.
so-
No,
Okay.
again, we're on this from a copy
Clarification.
editing, that's easy peasy.
All right,
Okay, I'm done.
great. So tying into the diverse conversation that, I don't know if this came up last time, basically when I read through it, I was like, this is a great point, we want to encourage diversity, but none of our action items speak to that. So Renee talked to, I actually don't know who she got this information from, but there were suggested edits to how to have some action items. So they were, add sentence to the end of 1A, or A1, to say, planned events should welcome residents regardless of race, religion, ability, gender identity, sexual orientation, citizenship status, or country, it says country, it says county of origin.
That's what Renee sent.
You have all this, so do you
Yes.
want me not to read it out? if
No,
you
we
already
don't
have
have
it?
to,
Okay.
we need to hear it.
Okay, but you don't need to write it down.
Positive.
But we can copy, edit.
Yeah, I just think you welcome residents. I don't like to say regardless. That to me is a
Yeah,
negative.
that's
It's
amazing.
prejudging.
So I don't know how we speak to the diversity.
I
think
think
that's
be
what
inclusive.
committees are.
Yeah, I mean, it's challenging to have action items that speak to it, so I don't know. So I can read through the rest and we can
Yeah, let's
decide
read through it.
what makes
Let's-
sense. Okay,
you know,
it
this
says
is-
for item 1, add puts forward to the list of community partners, but maybe if we're taking that off, then we just say whatever.
Civic group.
Advocacy groups or
Yeah,
civic groups
yeah.
or whatever. Let me see what is actually changing, maintain clear, okay. For item 3, oh, it says to add puts forward again, so skip that. And then you could add a third item, it says, and this must be under D, but it says, to help foster a more inclusive environment for village residents, conduct an annual assessment of village program offerings to ensure that diverse ideas and perspectives are represented.
Where's
So-
it?
There was one word right in the beginning. Can you read just the beginning?
It says, so the sentence that was suggested was, this would be a D3, to help foster a more inclusive environment for village residents, conduct an annual assessment of village program offerings to ensure that diverse ideas and perspectives are represented. I'm not
When you say
entirely
more-
sure what that means, it sounds like a
Again, it comes
potential
across
good
as
idea.
negative to me when it says a more inclusive. Because I think,
So just say to help foster an inclusive environment.
yeah.
You
don't even need-
don't have to
right,
have a.
Yeah, don't say more,
uh,
just say.
But again, that's copy edited.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
how you-
But do
It is.
people want to add that, or, I don't, is this a
I
point where
don't
we
have a problem
discuss,
with
discuss
I
that,
don't
or?
have a problem with it either, it just says inclusive.
So
Okay,
you'd be saying, go look at the programs that are offered by,
By the municipality? It would have to be by the municipality.
yeah, it says
Okay,
village
like
program
porch parties,
offering.
we make
Village
sure that
program
everybody
is our
there
village
gets
program,
invited.
Yeah.
village
Or
program.
like the rec center, the town program, we
Yeah.
don't offer programs.
Yeah.
We don't really offer
That'd be-
them. What do we offer?
I don't know of any
Porch
program.
parties.
That's not.
I
That's
just
not
think
village.
that, I can't imagine a program that would be offered that would not.
Include everybody.
Not that, I think maybe people might say, well, I don't know, you don't offer anything on X, Y, Z, I don't know. I don't know, like, I understand what you're saying, I don't think that they're not inclusive, but maybe just not offering them, or not, maybe there's just some way that people
Who
feel.
offers programs, the village
No.
government?
I don't know
Yeah,
exactly
well,
what that,
that's-
I don't know exactly what that means.
The
So maybe
library
this
offers
isn't-
programs.
Yeah,
Do we think
but that's
they
the
don't?
town, right? So-
That's all the town.
So,
The rec center,
Just town, yeah.
it's town.
I mean, that's fine, but I don't know
I
that
know.
how applicable it is.
I know,
it's
and so
that-
that's the
Village
last of
government
the
doesn't offer
suggestions.
programs.
There's no follow.
All right, well, we can move along, I know, there isn't, I don't know, maybe we can all agree to try to think about that, or,
Mhm.
so, all right. And then that's it for the Renee stuff, Tom doesn't have anything yet, and then, Peggy has some more things for 35.
Okay.
Page 35C, omit empower.
Oh,
And then it says, encourage resident participation through public outreach and engagement in omit all village. I mean, this is copy editing, so
yeah.
I can forward it if you want, or you can read
Yeah,
through
sure,
it.
forward
But
everything.
C1, omit semi-annual and make it quarterly or periodic.
Yeah.
C2, change this to establish a comprehensive plan implementation committee. Citizen action is not the proper term to use.
Which one?
I agree.
C2 on 35. So,
Establish a comprehensive plan, what was it?
Implementation committee, she
You're
said.
gonna forward those.
Yeah, you're for it,
Yeah.
okay.
Did that after the last plan.
So the Citizen Implementation Committee?
A comprehensive
It's a
plan
plan.
implementation committee.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the last of the stuff that was sent to me. Does anyone else have anything since I originally had gone just one at a time for you guys?
And you're doing something about the title, or you're not doing something about the title?
You know,
I
just
think
one
we-
thing about diverse, I mean, we always think about race.
Do you have a suggestion
But
for
it's-
the title?
Well, it's
Diverse.
everything,
It
you
is
know?
everything, yeah.
It's everything, diverse.
Yes, diverse is
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
It's old people and young people.
Yeah.
Somebody said, well, you know, people with
Well, it's
families
all those
don't want to
things
do such and
listed.
such, or there were action items like, why don't we have a family tour of the village once a month that young and old could attend? That isn't usually.
So what do you want to see for a title? Okay,
Let's
so
just leave- let's
let's
leave it for
sit
now.
with it, sit with it, we don't need to dwell on it, yeah.
All right, moving along to a network of shared streetscapes section. Page 36, 37, 38, 39. Okay, so it's pretty long. So I don't know if we need to break this down.
This is page 41. That's it.
I think it'd be easier if we just listen to add it to
Yeah,
suggestions.
I know, that's what I'm thinking too.
Okay.
Yeah, you guys go for it.
Right.
Yeah.
Dave, do you want
Okay,
to
I
go
just
first?
have two fairly simple ones. Page 39, number 8. I think it should prohibit private parking. Or, I'm sorry, on any private property. I don't know of any plans we have for parking village-wise, but I don't think we're prohibiting if we decide we want to create some parking, say, for a park area in the north property. We're not going to prohibit any use of parking, but on private property should be inserted at the end of that sentence, number 8.
Right now, it says the primary use. The idea
Right,
was
but
that you
we're
wouldn't
not
have
saying
a
that
parking
if
lot,
any
it was
village
just a
property, we
parking lot.
might want parking. So I don't want to limit the village, to say we can't have a piece of a village property used for parking.
This is
So
a
you wanna
common
say-
thing in historic villages that they don't have.
Parking is in.
It doesn't
They
mean
don't
we're
set
good,
up
but
just
we're
a
not gonna
parking
prohibit
lot.
ourselves. Well, we don't want someone taking a house and paving on their private property.
That's
This is
what
where
he's
it's
saying,
targeted
I think.
at private parking.
That's what he's saying. He
No,
says to add
no,
private.
it's targeted
to
at the
property.
visibility of parking.
Well, I know, but we would go through that process as a village, if we wanted parking or not, we would look at it. But I don't want to prohibit it, it might be something that's appropriate.
Where?
So add it,
And I don't think we need to know the specifics. I hear what you're saying. You're saying don't limit the village, but do you think there would ever be a situation where the village would have a parcel of land that they would want to have the
I don't know, a
primary
house could come
uses?
down like across the street,
Yeah, I'm
and
just
you
trying
might
to think.
decide.
No,
that-
because it,
Primary is the
because
key
the
word.
village would not, because it conflicts with code.
Yeah.
Mhm. Well, they're updating the code, so
Well,
what do we want
okay,
this to
you're
say? You know, do we want to limit the village?
But if you
or
look
not?
at the time frame, it says ongoing and
Yeah.
existing, so it's the recognition that it's already done
Yeah.
and in code.
so why do we?
Village board action, nothing.
I thought this was pretty strongly felt by people around the table in our earlier
Yeah, which-
discussion,
Yes,
as it is written,
yeah.
that people
So
want
the
to
village
know
should
us.
do parking anywhere.
As
No, but
It's
I don't,
primary
is the primary
use.
use, you wouldn't redevelop a plot and have it only be parking.
Only for.
Well, I'll say, I'm not saying I want that for the parcel across the street, but say there's a parcel that opened, say down near the pickle factory, with a house right adjacent. And they said, let's make that where a house used to be, let's make it parking. It might be that we want parking.
No, we don't.
I think, I agree with what you guys
Okay,
were
we'll
saying,
agree
because
on it, but-
the group's saying, you know, trends are changing, demographics are changing, you know, it's not about how much more parking can we find. It's about how do we make this pedestrian friendly, bicycle friendly, look at other
I
types of
agree, but
transportation.
pieces make it change use over time.
Uh-huh.
Well, like I said, like the lot
But
across
if
the
you
way,
read
the
what's in,
townhomes.
Remember our historic village section?
I think you're going back on a discussion that's already
I
happened.
agree, I mean,
Okay, if people feel
Yeah,
that.
no, I mean,
I
And this
can't
is in
envision
there
us doing
because-
it, but I don't think we want to
maybe you
limit.
missed that discussion, but this
Something
is
to
in
handle.
there because of the
Yeah.
discussion that was held
Right.
with the
Right.
by
Okay.
Okay.
In other words, they wouldn't make the northwest quadrant a parking lot. And they won't do it because they're gonna update the code to reflect the feedback from the community that they want green space.
But there could be a parcel that we acquire at some point adjacent to that, or let's say with the DPW, is if that moved. And that way,
But the
Facilitate.
comp plan is a snapshot of now, of where we are and how we think we're gonna
well,
go
it's
forward.
visionary.
Well, no, but I'm saying, this is recognizing the now of it. I don't know, maybe you wanna bring it back to a group.
No, I
of
mean,
people.
the code change should take place at that point.
Yeah, I
or
mean,
something.
I think that's,
understand.
Yeah.
Right.
I wanted to get the focus really on the private, that people want to create parking, lots or if the house is taken down or a double line or something. So, okay, the other one I have is on page 41, on E3, I think it is, let's see. Got that right? Yeah, just I question reducing that there. Again, I think it's more of a plan. I guess actually it named 3. I was thinking more for 1 and 2, that really they're really enhancing the same thing. Water access, we don't control it internally. It's state.
yeah, but we can certainly, install docks. I mean, we've done that. And as for number 3, that's part of the whole, Shane Place conceptual plan that was just vetted with this group. The only thing I would say with 3, is that to create a more inviting, I would say, and safer environment, that it's not just about cars, Because the whole idea, remember, was to make that seasonally closed by the barns, and then, have the traffic.
I don't think we're talking about seasonally closing that road. I didn't understand that. It would be when we want to shut it off for events.
Well, I think it was discussed in broad context, I don't know, but I think that's drilling down pretty far, but I think number 3
Parking
was
there's a
vetted
problem
with a group.
already. We're trying to solve that with RG&E and other aspects of it.
Mhm.
So I don't think that's the goal, to reduce the parking in the Shane Place area.
It says along the
Well, I
canal,
think that's part of the other.
like
planning
literally
of it.
adjacent to the canal. That's how I read that you're looking at the road that goes along the canal, and you wanna make it safer for boaters, safer for bikers, pedestrians.
But we're not reducing parking along there. And those businesses have parking for those businesses that exist there in those structures.
What do you wanna say?
Well, I think it also speaks to, I don't want to get into the weeds about things that before the moratorium, the conceptual proposal for the barns had the parking in front facing the canal. So I think it sort of is getting to that point of like, it says reduce the presence of parking.
Yeah.
Making
This is
along
about
the
the
canal. I don't think it
conceptual
necessarily means
It's like
reduce
Georgia
the
Way,
number
right?
of
Goes to the
spots.
back.
But
But-
where do we have parking that we reduce on the canal right now?
So maybe it's a wordsmithing thing, maybe
But
it's.
if you look, again, I think
Yeah.
if you read across that whole line, it's a 3 to 5 year time frame in the anticipation of redevelopment of the barns.
And
and
the
Shane
other
Place.
side, your proposal, it says library on
Yeah.
the other side too.
Right, so I think
close.
it's the linear park concept on the other side. I think it's looking out. Village board action is required, other property owners have to buy in. This is about the
Well,
conceptual.
where, it says
How
on the
about say,
canal.
how about say,
Where would you reduce parking on the canal?
so,
So could we have a proposal for the wording or something? Is that what you're doing?
reduce presence of parking and vehicular drives in new development, in any new
Yeah, I don't
development.
have a problem with that in concept.
Okay, but,
Because that adds,
okay,
Those businesses that are there need fuel to park, or they're stop fuel from parking.
they're all
nearby.
privately owned lots.
right,
Well, then what are we controlling then?
When you look at the library, I don't know, maybe you weren't at that meeting when we showed all the cars parked at the library
Right,
parking
that's
lot.
not the canal.
Do you see on local partners, there's library. It's looking at both sides of the
So you're
canal.
looking just because of that park behind the library. So I think.
I'm looking at
That
everything.
part of it, that's just one side of it.
I understand, but the other side, the Shane Place side, on how we're going to reduce parking on the canal, that's.
Well, we don't
Right,
have to
so
worry
I
about
don't-
it.
so
It also
I think
says drive.
Perhaps it's a wording thing that sounds, the issue is the
Streets.
visibility of the cars against the
Right.
canal. So maybe we need to wordsmith
Okay.
it or something, that you guys can look at
Okay,
that,
so
to
we'll do-
see,
Yeah, I'm gonna write down the word
Like,
visibility.
yeah.
Presence,
You
use
might
visibility.
describe sides of the canal then. Because I think that will focus people more on the library side too, that that's an issue. with
Okay, so we'll say
newspapers.
along both sides of the canal, we'll put in that language, both sides. Okay, that's a good one.
Great.
Sorry,
Uh-huh.
that's all I have.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Peter, did you have anything on this section?
I don't,
All right. Janet?
Let's see. C2, evaluate the feasibility of traffic calming measures along the
Yes,
Wood Creek.
I have that one
I don't even know
too.
what that means. I don't know what Wood Creek.
So Wood Creek is outside the village, which I'm still confused by.
Okay, so why is
our
it in
house
there?
is in here? This was on my list too.
Yeah,
I don't
doesn't
know
make any
this.
sense to me then.
Oh, you know why? I think this is sort of obliquely referencing the transportation plan and the gateways coming in, that we want the village, the town, to reduce their speed limits
Oh,
before people get into the village.
oh, then yeah, that
Because
wording should
what
probably
is
be
that, speed
significant.
limit's like 40?
It's 45.
45,
And it
sorry.
goes down to 30.
Yeah,
Is that part of the
the-
town's plan then?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I think maybe
So
that's
two, we
what
don't
we're
need,
talking about.
So does this mean the route from Wood Creek into the village?
No, I don't know what this in particular
No,
means.
How did that end up? It says DPW.
Yeah.
don't know.
Because Wood Creek is the neighborhood, you know, right?
Yeah,
at
I
the
know,
outside.
it's not-
village.
it's in-
So,
Outside the village.
I would say strike it, or if you think you can make it into the gateways, language,
Well,
and
the gateways is number one.
Oh,
Right.
so then I wouldn't have it in there, I don't know what it speaks to.
I don't
And the
either.
DPW business too.
Yeah.
Does
Done.
anyone else remember a conversation about it?
Delete.
Okay. All right, Janet, what else do you have?
Let's see, on number 6.
On the same one, under C?
Yeah,
Okay.
C6. Evaluate the potential. We don't have to evaluate the potential, we just accommodate pedestrian safety. and
Yeah, that's a
actions
tough
that
one,
we-
yeah, I know.
Yeah,
There's
that's
stuff like that that
just,
just kind of drives you nuts.
And then the next one I had is clear down,
Well, I will say that's also outside of our control, so maybe there was some, that's the
well, it
state,
isn't
right?
completely, we have to have action items that deal with.
Yeah, I
get
just wonder
DOT lined
It
up.
has to be in
If you
our,
say accommodate, maybe that is enough to say to the DOT, listen, this is what we wanna do, but
we
I
may
don't
want a
know.
stronger word.
Maybe,
Yeah,
We may want a
Yeah.
stronger word because the DOT is required by law to look at our comp plan.
okay, so let's,
You know, that's how we
That
get
works.
the changes. Improve,
yes.
better word.
Do you like that, Janet? Improve pedestrian safety
Improve
at the
the
four
foster.
I was trying to
corners.
think of something even stronger than
Yeah.
improved, but right now, nothing
Yeah.
coming to my head, so.
Yeah.
Okay, but we
Okay.
can, we're
Yeah.
starting with improve and maybe we can
Yeah.
improve on that.
Yeah,
Because I agree strongly.
Great.
yeah, it's not very,
Anything else, Janet, on this?
let's see, we've got, no, those are the key, well, the policy, what's the objectives?
What page?
What page?
37, it's a little bit, I know multimodal is the precisely right word, but it's very jargony to me.
We're on 37?
The objective A,
Okay.
create an accessible multimodal transportation network throughout the village with regional connectivity. It's kind of jargony.
Yeah, that's a big
It
mouthful,
doesn't really
isn't it?
tell people what you want to do.
Yeah, what is our multimodal transit regional connectivity, the buses?
Don't know.
Oh,
Yeah. And we're trails,
Trail
bus bike
system,
trails and
yeah.
that connect, yeah. But yeah, the bus is a big one.
Do you want us to, let's see, create accessible, multimodal, no, that's,
It's
like
group
jargon
Yeah.
stuff,
it's-
no.
I don't know what, I mean, multimodal is like the word.
I know,
So I
it's
don't know
sort of the
what
buzzword
what a
for the-
synonym would be for that
And
without
a
spelling
network,
it
yeah.
out.
I know.
That's kind of in the cloud a little bit. Sounds good, but
Create a viable transportation network throughout the village.
Could you just say all modes of transportation?
You
Yeah,
create a
that's
viable
better.
transportation network throughout the village utilizing all modes of transportation.
Yeah,
I mean, that's what you
That's what it
use.
gets at, yeah.
In the paragraph
Sounds
above, it talks about all modes of travel.
yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, that makes sense.
Create a viable, say it again, viable transportation network. So we're
Yeah.
deleting we're deleting accessible multimodal
Right, right. Create a viable transportation network
throughout the village.
throughout the village for all modes of travel.
Utilizing all modes of
Yeah.
transportation. Oh, throughout the, it should be, hang on.
Yeah.
Create, excuse me, a viable transportation network throughout the village and region, utilizing all modes. With, regional connectivity is important.
Separate
I
thing
know,
too,
we
yeah.
can't
Do
do it.
you want it as a different
Well, let's see.
objective?
Can you read what you said?
Yeah, I think I'm starting to try to
Yeah.
incorporate it in somehow. Create a viable transportation network throughout the village, utilizing all modes of transportation and ensuring regional connectivity.
Great.
Or while ensuring, or in ensuring, to ensure.
Well, it's
No,
around here
yeah,
and,
yeah.
Encouraging.
and,
Yeah,
yeah.
To promote.
Because we
I'm
really
sure
can't
what
do,
we do.
we can't do what the town does, it stops.
Well, for example, the Auburn Trail has finally, we can now literally go all the way down the Auburn Trail. It connects now in Brighton, and, in other words,
Always did.
each,
Yeah.
it didn't in a way that was
Like,
meaningful
yeah.
for people. Now, it just does, so, that's an example where, Brighton says, yep, we wanna connect up with your part of the Auburn Trail. Purinton says on their end, yep, we're connecting, it's that kind of thing.
Okay, great, that sounds good. Janet, did you have any more
Okay.
in that section?
Well, number C, implement traffic calming measures.
Same page.
Implement traffic calming measures that improve visibility of alternative transportation facilities and signal to it's too long.
That's copy editing.
Okay.
We'll fix it.
All right.
That's copy
Rather
editing.
than say alternative transportation,
It
We'll-
really,
we'll
fix it.
they'll
They'll
fix
fix it,
content
yeah.
that
we're
needs to
talking
go in.
walkers and bikers.
Yeah.
So they'll edit the language to
Yeah.
make it,
Non-transportation
Yeah.
facilities,
Yeah.
correct that.
yeah.
Okay.
But, so what else do you have, Janet? We'll work on the language for that.
The others are.
Okay,
okay. Bonnie?
All set.
Okay. Let's see, you got the Wood Creek. The only other thing I had a question on, and I think I maybe missed this discussion, was on page 40. There's the mention of the lanes on Main Street Bridge, North Main Bridge.
What number, please?
Number 5.
C5,
C5.
page 40.
I guess I wasn't totally sure what that spoke to, if it was the shoulders, if it was widening the sidewalk, what exactly that was.
And actually, I think it should read restructure lanes and sidewalks.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I also
Remember
sort
we
of
had
like
that
tangential,
talk.
yeah.
And that was left
So
out.
it should
maybe-
really encompass everything so that we can do the
So you
best
can
job.
cross the safely on the
Yeah.
sidewalk. But then I also wanted to raise like the state, I know North Main is a really narrow sidewalk, very narrow, but
Mhm.
State Street is also like a really
Yeah.
scary bridge to cross. And
Right.
so, and I don't ever see that mentioned here.
I think
So
you'll
I
find
don't
the
know
same.
where.
So why don't we
Yeah.
say
Can
North
you
Main
add
Street and State Street Bridge?
I
Like, put both
yeah.
in?
Yeah.
Sure.
And I don't know if Monroe also needs it, but theirs is a slightly
Monroe
different,
is separate,
they have a
yeah.
slightly, yeah, it's different
Well,
configuration.
Monroe screwed up because they put the, you start to cross over the bridge, heading out of the
Right.
village, and then the entire guardrail comes right out
Yeah.
of the center of the sidewalk.
Yes, split there, yeah.
And you know what, I showed those pictures to NISTOD, remember that meeting?
No.
Oh, this was one of those drop the mic moments. Because he's like, I said, for example, we went through all the bridges, and I said, and then even on the Monroe Avenue Bridge, the guardrail goes right into the center of the sidewalk, and they go, no, it doesn't. I said, yes,
Into
it
the
does.
center of what?
Into the
Center of the
sidewalk.
sidewalk.
The guardrail goes along the street, and then as
Okay.
soon as you get over
Like going
the
away from
village,
the
away from the
Yeah.
village, on both sides, the
Okay.
guardrail goes right into the center of the sidewalk.
Right.
So if you're riding bikes with your family, all of a sudden it goes, whoa, when you're on
Narrows,
single
in
file.
other words,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I said that to NISTOD, they didn't believe me, so I took, and they were shocked.
And they're like, sorry, we can't fix that.
Well, that's what they said, they can't fix it
It's
until
not
the
in,
bridge comes
yeah,
up on
and
the
that's not
sidewalk.
in our priorities, that's what I keep hearing.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you'll add State Street, that would be awesome to that section.
Yeah, we're gonna
Right,
add
and
it.
that's all I have, let me check, Tom doesn't have anything for that, Peggy, let's see, 30, okay, gosh, it's hard, because it's long, I don't wanna read through it. She says, which recommendations in the ATP are to be addressed? Perhaps village ATP rec should be listed here or referred to in appendix along with entire ATP. That's the active transportation plan she's referring to. What priority does the pedestrian safety plan have in this, and where is it in the village ATP? And then there's some more. So I know you guys have talked about the ATV maybe last time, and it's gonna be, it's its own separate track, but it's referenced in this
And it
document.
should be included in this
And
document.
it's gonna be a,
Yeah.
what, an appendix or the,
I know it's gonna be included, digitally as a link, I think it's
okay.
gonna be, I don't know if it's gonna be included.
Do we wanna just put something in here, consider?
There should be a
implementing just
reference
one line
directed
to it?
to it.
Okay.
Well, and I'm actually thinking, we may want, hang on, let me just see where we are. Where am I at the wall? I'm thinking, oh, here, is this, so this is it here, this is where it all starts. We may want up here,
Which one are you looking at?
page 38, when we start this section, we may want to have a small narrative paragraph talking about the plan that has been worked on,
Yeah.
and just, referencing it there,
Right.
so everything is derivative of
Okay.
that. Do you
Yeah.
guys hear what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I'm looking at page 38, at the beginning of this section, we have just a, Susan, I can wordsmith something, send it out to you guys.
Number one.
There's an active
Why not
transportation
just
plan.
Put the link right to it.
Yeah, of course, but I'm just saying, you have to give context, and so the context would be, there has been an active transportation plan that has, is undergoing adoption by the village and the town, collaborating on together, something like that. And the following items relate back to the plan in some fashion, and the plan can be found in the
You think
appendix.
time-wise, you'll probably adopt it at the time we do this, but.
Well, it's just, we can say at this point in time, it's in progress. I mean, it's like anything. It's-
Does I'm sorry, I still haven't seen the final version.
It's, the draft is on the village website, you can read it.
I did go in and try to find it.
It's on the website. If you can't find it, I would call Dorothea. Yeah.
But my concern is, when I read the earlier versions, everything in the ATP seemed to focus on just a few streets. I don't think South Street is really in there, and I think there's other neighborhood
South
streets.
Street's in the
neighborhood
ATP, it's in the
streets.
ATP, it has, there's a picture of a recommendation
Yeah.
for it.
South Street's in there.
Yeah.
We're
What
getting a
about
little
Wood
off
Street?
track.
What
Yeah.
about Locust Street?
We're-
What about Red Place?
They're all in
What
there.
about-
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
this is encompassing other streets, this is comprehensive.
Right.
No, but in the
We're getting off track.
Yeah.
We're not
The
taking
action,
part of the
well, I know
ATP.
you know the,
Yeah.
I know you know the.
But it's the
transportation
latest
plan.
draft, the last one that I read, the last one that you read, or anybody else at this table, is online right now on the village website. So maybe you read something earlier, I don't know. But I can tell you, as a whole, the entire village was addressed, with the specifics of 4 gateways identified coming into the
But didn't the
village.
action items only include the first few areas?
Let's look at
That's
this,
all.
let's
So
look at that
shift
discussion.
what we're
Yeah.
doing
Okay,
here.
let's,
But
but
I
as
would
a
leave-
policy, we're
I
gonna.
leave the wording of one as it is,
Yeah.
in anticipation, even if it's passed after this comp plan is
Mhm.
adopted, not give history of it, I think that's digging too deep. We're gonna adopt it whenever it is, it could be an update in 5 years, and we'll still have a comp plan saying, implement the recommendations. So I think that's, and then have a link to it, because I think it's important not to try to spell it out within this document, because we covered.
Yeah, but is that, won't that be in the little narrative paragraph up
I don't
front?
think we
He's
need
saying
it.
not to do that, so.
Oh, I would. I think it's a huge component of our,
Well, I think we've got it there. Put it
okay,
as an appendix in it.
You could put parentheses, appendix, and then we could include
all right,
something.
great.
I could go, truly, I could go either way because it does set the tone for this whole
Our action items
conversation.
are village-wide.
No, discussion.
Okay. All right, 37, she says, again, details from the ATP should be cited, local partners needs to be evaluated and cleared up. I don't know what that means, it's what it says, I don't see anything there, so I don't know. I can, again, I'll send this to you, I'm just gonna read through it. In the policy statement, the fourth sentence implies we do not have a unique sense of place. Assume that Elisa and Susan
Yeah.
wordsmith, okay. Page 38, 1A, which recommendations in ATP are to be addressed, perhaps, oh, this says the same thing, okay, which is what we just talked about, so
Okay.
we're just gonna reference it in an appendix, or?
Well, I think under policy statement,
Yeah,
that's maybe where we could reference it before we
Okay.
get into all the
Yeah.
rest of the document. I guess that's what I was trying to say.
What, the ATP?
something,
Yeah.
I think it's from the policy statement.
okay,
Yes.
right.
all right.
So then when you come across it, then it has some
Oh,
meaning.
right. Mhm.
Yep.
All right.
What about A6?
Here, before we do, she says A5, the village board should have a role in this, otherwise who will encourage and why? Okay, so it says A5, encourage
A5
private
is-
investment in running a trolley
Oh,
for
okay.
historic. So maybe just add village board, I don't know. Okay, A6.
Consider implementing a fee or fund to help establish and maintain public parking areas. I don't know what that means.
I think it's looking at parking districts, that was discussed under the Shane Place concept, that, for example, in Shane Place, business owners maybe, would be assessed a fee just to contribute to the fact that the town, or the village, maintains a lot of those parking areas. And that's not uncommon in municipalities to do that. You identify, a business district and a parking district is associated.
But it says maintain public parking areas. Most of our public parking areas are private business parking
Not
areas.
in Shane
maintained by
Place.
the
If
village.
we acquire the RG&E right away, there could be a.
Or it might be one, but all the ones right now
I think it's
belong to
really
private
what we
people.
most-
I think it's in anticipation of the RG&E right away.
And that's, Peggy brought that up too, she
Yeah.
said, which area are you talking about
Yeah.
except RG&E properties?
Yeah, I think
So,
that's,
What was the change number 5, I didn't catch that.
I think she was just saying add village board as one of the partners
Partners.
because it would have a role in it.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Village isn't the operator, if I understand.
No.
Yep.
No, I think it says the words private investment, which to me would say not the village running it.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Okay.
I still want to go back to 6. It says establish, it doesn't just say maintain.
Consider implementing a fee or fund to help establish and maintain public.
Well, Shane Place would be another example. If we were acquiring the RG&E right away, it might be paving it, improving it, striping it,
Mhm.
and you potentially even metering it, because you have the
Mhm.
competition between
So this is
recreation
this
users.
is completely a future thing.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think you can
It's
tell
just
it's a
3 to 5
future
years.
thing. If you look across on your time frame,
Yeah.
you see that it's not ongoing or existing. You see that it's maybe 3 to 5 years out, which I think would indicate it'd be a future thing.
You clearly would need more partners than we've listed there.
Who you want?
Well, it's only got the attorney and the DPW.
Yeah, we
It's on the
obviously be
village board.
trustees.
Property owners,
It'd be the board.
Okay, sounds good. Let's see, Peggy says A8, cite a possible incentive as an example. Create incentives, gosh, I don't know what it could be. I don't think we need to in this, do you?
We need to
No.
know.
I don't think we need an example.
No.
Okay. All right,
but certainly business owners would need, and
General-
property owners would need to be partners.
Mhm. And I think that's what this is saying, if I'm reading it correctly, maybe somebody's reading it differently.
all right, Peggy, it says for page 39 to 40, general comments, no incorporation of the pedestrian safety plan. If this is a priority, it should be stated as such. Again, perhaps the recommendations of the ATP should be included here, since village reps have spent so much time and effort on this.
I thought that, to be honest with you, I thought we were gonna put in the pedestrian safety plan here, you know, at some point. That was like a while back.
But that's the one that only focuses on the near-term certain
Yes,
areas.
it does.
It doesn't focus on the whole
Yes,
village.
it does. You're absolutely
That's what
right.
concerns
That's
me.
why,
Well, there's,
If we do that and never get to any of the others, then we've left all the neighborhoods kind of hanging.
no, the reason why we're focused on that is that we received grant money.
No, I
to do it.
understand why we did
Yeah.
that, but
Yeah.
if you put it in here,
Were you-
I think one of the things that
I
we
don't know
can
what
add
about,
is the
putting
perspective.
something in like that, why would it preclude something else? I'm not sure what you mean.
Because let's be realistic. How
No.
many things are we going to be able to get funding for?
well, that one's already funded, that's
In
what
a
I'm
5 or
focused on.
10 year?
Yeah.
Oh, it isn't.
It is, it is, yeah.
It isn't. We have to have
It's not-
matching funds or
We
something.
gotta come up
No, we
with
do
one.
not have any matching funds at all.
For the one grant, we have to pay for it first.
You have to pay
And
first.
then we get reimbursed in a few years.
Right.
So
My
let's,
concern
can you
is-
raise, so can you make a note, question mark, should we include this? Maybe we can talk about that
I
with
thought
the
we
bigger
talked
program.
about it,
I might not
Okay.
have been there, but
Yep.
Noted.
We'll make a note.
Tom's gonna be mad because I'm not gonna get through page 66. All right, well, we'll keep
He
moving.
didn't get as far as he thought he was
All right.
going to get even, so
Okay,
don't worry about
All
Tom.
right, page 40, C8, Peggy said, which says continue and expand upon the use of on-street parking for traffic calming. Give some examples, okay, again, I don't think, I don't think in this place we wanna do that. General observations, no mention of
Village
additional
boards.
sidewalks where currently there are none. No mention of village lighting on streets with no lights, no mention of bike lanes on New York State streets and South Street, no mention of tree program, no mention of requiring new infill construction to be built to the sidewalk in commercial areas. I can send you that where appropriate.
Some of that comes later.
Okay.
Also, just going back to 8, under local partners, the village board should be in on all of this, because some of our streets are locally owned by our, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I'm just throwing that out in the group, so.
And the thing like sidewalks, we don't have it, like number 4 covers that. Improved access to sidewalks, that could be adding sidewalks.
And the ATP does call out adding sidewalks, so
Yes.
again, it's like
Yes.
circular, yeah, I wanna make sure that that's,
Again, I think getting too deep,
yeah.
it's not our function of the plan. Then they look at these areas, prioritize and what can we do, where do we have upgrades that are needed, to
Okay.
enhance everything.
So I think those are all Peggy's comments on this section, so if
Yes,
everybody has
That's through 41.
through 41.
Okay.
If everyone's ready, we can move on to a champion of sustainable practices.
I have nothing to add to that section, that's the good news. Nothing to take
Well,
away.
we already talked about the pictures that start each one of these sections are not necessarily the right pictures. And I think,
What page are you on, I'm sorry?
So we're starting at
well, right now, I'm
42.
just
No,
looking at
what, she's
42.
looking at the pictures, I'm asking what.
Right.
There's a
42.
picture that
Okay,
starts
42.
each one.
Yeah, oh, you're looking at that.
And the
okay.
pictures are usually not,
I think the last one in this
Don't really-
section was flowers, and they took that out, and
So
now
why
it's
don't
this
we
one,
just make a
and
note to review pictures,
So,
are they
okay.
appropriate,
Yeah,
are the best
yeah.
pictures?
like the one on
We're not gonna change those
engagement.
today.
they're also asking us to take pictures too,
Yeah,
so
we're
if
also
you see
taking
something that
pictures.
would be a good
So
sustainable
that's still in
practices
flux.
picture, snap it.
Okay.
Okay.
What's your next one? Yeah, so you're doing
Well, on page 43,
42 to 48.
I object to the word growth. It says the greatest challenge of future growth in the village will be managing change in a balanced fashion. Is it growth, or are we really expecting the village to get larger? Since we have some pretty strong boundaries. Or are we talking about revisions to what we currently have?
What if we
or
say-
changes to what we currently
The
So
have?
what's
greatest
your-
future challenge of the village will be.
Managing
Yeah,
change.
yeah.
Is that an accurate
Yeah, that's
statement?
copy
Is that-
editing. I
is
would,
that our- yeah.
I would read that out
So we can go
personally.
with growth, okay.
Okay. What's next?
Three is.
Yeah, what's the content based?
Mhm.
Deanna, did you have anything?
Any
Well,
content?
C, the objective C,
Mhm.
by having the word campaigns in there, I think we make it sound more like an action item than an objective. Increase resident awareness and participation in programs to reduce waste, combat pollution.
Mhm. Oh, okay, just
One
delete
way you might
campaigns.
do that is to have a specific campaign that works on such and such. I don't know, that's just,
So the
that's just
objective
a
is
wordsmith.
defining the means.
Mhm.
Okay.
And in A, which is on page 44, a cleaner, greener community, I'm sure is a very specific thing. I'm just not sure what it is.
Oh, it's the
And
program.
so I changed it to consider designation as a cleaner, greener community.
Okay.
Mhm.
Or you could say,
Is there such a designation?
I think there's a
Apparently so.
I think there's a
That's what I'm
program called
wondering.
Cleaner Greener Community, it's through DEC.
But what is
Yeah.
it?
Why don't we have a
Well,
question
but-
mark ask our consultants?
Yeah, what is
Just
that?
Verify that.
So
or-
we do, if none of us know what it is,
Make
then
it-
maybe
so
we
you
don't
can
need
make
it.
it up.
We'll make it up.
Alright,
Okay.
and then what else?
What is it?
Next item. We all have bedtimes at midnight.
We're not gonna be there.
No, it's 6:30.
Did you wanna move on, Janet? You could keep looking.
Yeah, I'm
Did you,
looking at,
did you have anything on?
most of my comments had to do with who the partners were in that, so
Okay.
they're already working that.
You know, I was just thinking, and this is just something for discussion, A2, changeover vehicles to an all-electric fleet. And you're looking 6 to 10 years, do we know that all-electric in 10 years may be the way to go? Do we wanna say, consider,
Yeah,
change over village, if I can finish my thought, change over village vehicles you know, to a non-fossil fuel,
Right.
or look at
Alternatives.
alternatives, more sustainable.
Consider changing vehicles to alternative energy.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, sustainable, right, alternative energy.
Great.
I have the same thought.
Yeah, I mean, we just don't know.
It's a goal.
Yeah, 10 years, I
Just
mean,
say
who
nothing
knows?
else.
Might not be electric, it might be, you
Yeah,
know,
that's a good point.
it might be grape juice.
Wanda, did you have any that you wanted to?
That was, no,
Just
that
that
was my item.
Peter, did you have any on next one?
No,
No, okay. Tom has some in this section. Page 45, he says, to switch 1 and 6. Maybe it was a prioritization or something.
Yeah.
He says, what is a stewardship policy? If we want it, it needs a descriptive phrase added.
Okay, so define stewardship policy,
Yeah.
or elaborate.
Yeah, or I
Okay,
guess find
elaborate,
another word if
yeah.
it's not the right.
So he's changing the order of 1 and 6, is that what you're
That was
saying?
what he suggested.
Okay,
yeah.
6 is bigger than 1.
And then he says
General
number
description.
3, why mention Long Woods as an example? Should the school be listed as partner or should we not use the example? Maybe that speaks to the calling out of the
Right.
specific
Yeah,
things.
that's not our property.
I don't know.
Right.
Well, but it's in the village.
I understand, but I wouldn't single them out, it kind of is a shot at the school, I think.
Well,
Watermelon is
we
a
said
shot,
last
it's just-
time that we were going to put on our map all the green spaces,
I don't
including the
disagree.
Towns Park, the Lone Woods.
But I understand the school's been much more restrictive on access to the properties in
Yeah.
general.
Yeah, they've
I
really,
don't think I'd identify them specifically, but
I'd make them a local partner.
I agree with that.
Absolutely.
Great, okay, can you do
That's a
that?
good idea.
I think we
Do
can.
you have the power to?
I think we
have-
have.
Okay,
The power of
Power of
the copy editing.
great,
Well, you want the town too.
well, the town too, because
Yeah,
the
yeah, no,
town,
but I'm
the
saying
town
we-
goes
yeah.
into the rec center.
Exactly,
Yeah.
I think that's.
So town and
a whole
schools.
enchilada.
So then, as Tom says, page 46, he says, what is a refuse and recycling district? I feel like,
Oh,
I don't know if people know what that means, but he says if we want it, it needs a descriptive phrase. I know it's been thrown around a lot, maybe
what number
people do
again, I'm
know.
sorry?
Well, it's,
Three.
okay, thanks.
We can do it right now. It means you have only one garbage truck coming
Yeah.
down the street instead of, I think there were 6 or 7 today on
About
the
6
street.
providers, I think, in the village.
It's crazy.
How
Yeah,
much
and like
time
3 of them
do
are
they
over
have?
the same
I
one.
know, and we could be.
Okay,
district
okay.
in town.
Establish a refuse and recycling
Yeah.
district utilizing a
You
single
again want to
service
Yes.
provider.
consider
Yeah.
establishing.
And then pages, let's see if this is still the same section. No, I think that's,
I say
he's moved
consider
on.
establishing. That's going to take citizen input to do it, and take some education.
Investigate establishing.
Yeah.
And number 1, create a save, sustainable actions for our village environment. Is that, I don't know what that is.
Oh, who put that in?
I
That's
don't
my
know.
program I'm putting together. Who put that in?
I mean, I don't know what it is.
Amy
So I
might
don't-
have
I don't
done
know, I
that.
think so.
It's not a save.
I'm reluctant to have it in there as an action item when none of us know what that is.
I know what it is because I developed the program.
Okay,
I
well,
can
she
tell you.
knows, but you're the only.
Again, I
No,
would
no,
put
hang on,
consider.
can everybody,
making-
We're writing this for readers.
I understand that. I didn't put this in,
I agree.
okay? So
Understand.
can I take a second and describe this?
Okay.
And then maybe we can come up with language
Sure.
that would be appropriate or not. Save, and it's not a save, it's create save, or it's written incorrectly, first of all. Sustainable actions for our village environment is something that I would like to propose, and it can not even be in the comp plan, I don't care if it is. I would propose at the village level certainly, and also I think the town should do something, and they're trying to work on it. But what it is, it's a top-down policy adopted by our elected officials that's implemented village-wide. And it goes in every department, DPW, they don't use Roundup anymore. We look at alternatives, we look at every single way we use our assets and our resources within our community. And so it's more of an umbrella that creates awareness and adopts actions by the elected officials across the board. We always plant native trees, we plant pollinators, we stop planting the Bradford pears that kill bees because they can't pollinate. You know, there's a whole range of things across the board that I would like to see under the umbrella of SAVE, or some kind of a program where we get village buy-in.
Okay.
Okay, I think Amy must have put this in. I never would have put this in because
No, this
I
has been
think.
in there since, this is
But I don't
sort
know,
of change.
I don't
This is
know,
the earlier
we
version.
talked about it, but I don't know how this ended up in there
So
this
is it-
way.
so is
Let me
it-
make a suggestion, and I like to use the word consider, so you don't get people who are against it Doug is
Right
saying,
off the
they're gonna
bat,
make a
yeah.
refuge district, I don't have input. It's like, say, consider creating a
Yeah,
say, blah,
Yeah,
blah, blah.
okay, yep, and
Or
it's not
similar,
also,
or similar citizen group to suggest. and
Yeah, I don't like the
think
word
Is it a
say.
citizen group, or is it a citizen group, or is it a policy?
No, what I was trying to say,
Yeah.
that's why I said
Program, yeah.
initially, when I started to talk about it, this is incorrectly written
Yeah, so
and
let's redo it.
conveyed,
Yeah.
because, if I could finish my thought, local partners, it should be the village board. You know, we need to have elected officials buy-in. The only way to create any kind of change that's gonna be meaningful is gonna be at your elected official level. You know, really.
What if you use this, remember the engaged citizenship in our other section? What if what you did was establish a citizen advisory committee to recommend how we incorporate sustainability in all village decisions?
That's really kind of what this
Yeah.
is. I mean, this is coming to me, and I'm just saying, I'm just like one little person. I mean, I would get villagers to come to a meeting, I asked to have an agenda item, and say, we're all interested in this. We're all interested in working with our government to create something that is a comprehensive umbrella going forward in a world of unstable climate change. We've got to look at a larger picture here. We've got to take actions even at the most local
Yeah.
level.
So
That's what
could
I'm
it be
saying.
consider creating a SAVE program,
Yeah, or a
whatever the
program.
language is? Can you
A
write the
citizen-
language?
Yes, I'll write the
Here, so-
language. We don't need to have say. Save
I
is,
think save is fine.
Yeah.
Everything you agree, said,
Yeah, I think if you
100%.
copy edit the language.
Okay,
since
I'll
you
copy
have
it. I know where you guys
yeah.
are going.
But I
Okay.
think
I
that
think
it
everyone's on
suggests-
board.
Yeah.
So I don't think it has to be the board that runs it, it's citizens group, to
Yeah.
include some of the
Yeah.
DPW, the board,
Yeah.
and they're gonna suggest the policy
Yeah.
and
There's
efforts.
a policy
Yeah.
and then,
So under
yeah.
local partners,
Yeah.
should we put volunteers,
Yeah.
citizens,
Like with
DPW, village
the
board?
yeah.
Exactly,
Yes.
that's the, yeah,
Yeah,
great idea, love it.
But I don't have a problem with your language in general, I think it's a great idea.
yeah.
I don't care who
I'll
owns
join
it or not.
No,
it's
I
great.
don't care either,
No,
but
I
I mean,
know.
if you didn't
It's
want to use
interesting.
save, I mean, it's
If
just,
you
it was
just
something
take
I
out
was
those words, you
surprised.
say, create a citizen group
Yeah.
to suggest future sustainable
Okay.
policy.
Sounds great.
Oh, good.
All right, should we
Okay.
move along to a collaborative local environment? Or government, sorry. Collaborative local government, page 40.
Page away 48?
Yeah,
That's no
David.
changes.
no changes, all right. Peter?
No changes.
Janet?
And the only comments I wrote had to do with litigation. Let's see.
Page 50,
Yeah, it's 50.
okay.
All I know is that I was really
Sure.
concerned about DOT and fire department.
It's a what level?
And now I'm
page
trying to
number?
remember where they are in here. Okay, number 1A deals with the DOT.
I'm going to Bonnie, what you're thinking.
Yeah, that sounds great. Sorry, I zoned out. Do you have anything, Bonnie? Okay. I was just reading Tom's. He says on page 50, no policy statement, question mark, but there is one on.
These are some of the exact same recommendations that are on that other page,
Yeah.
they're even worded
So
the
I-
same.
He might have missed the page,
Maybe.
because, you know, the way it's copied sometimes
It
it's
says-
awkward.
In general, it says the action items are too focused on future development enhancement. Better
Yeah.
to try to clarify upfront the defined jurisdictions and how they interrelate. It needs to be clear that the village is its own municipality. Maybe here is where there should be some clarification as to the relationship between the village, sorry, actually, this is
Which is in the policy.
Peggy's, sorry, this is Peggy's. There's so many comments here.
Okay.
Maybe here is where there should be some clarification as to the relationship between the village and the town. Might also be good to have action item about the cooperative use of meeting facilities or larger events. So, all right, so I'm reading hers. Okay, let me see what Tom said.
Well, right now, the town controls all the meeting facilities.
And then,
It's a serious problem.
It is a serious problem.
Yeah, we're losing that.
I had to practically, well,
Yeah, we
Okay.
have to sign
let
it.
me keep reading Peggy's.
Okay.
There, so she says for A3, which is 50, consider omit coordinate newsletter with town. For A4, replace mayor and supervisor with leadership team. And I can send you
Wait,
this stuff,
Go
but.
back to 3, I'm
Okay.
sorry, what?
That's
Does-
the
I
same,
think it's like omit, does it say coordinate, maybe it just says consider instead of that,
isn't this the one that was exactly the same words in the other section?
Yeah, this should be more
This is that same
governmental
one.
inter body rather than
We talked about it
citizens.
should be schools,
So
including.
3 we already have.
And we have to get
Somewhere.
confused.
I'm a little
lost
weeds too,
with all of
sorry.
you. I don't know
okay.
where we.
So, I'm just reading this off. It says considers the village newsletter with the town
Oh,
newsletter.
consider
maybe
coordinating.
Oh, consider coordinating.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm
Consider
sorry.
coordinating.
I guess
That's
it's a small thing. I mean, this is like copy stuff, so I can send it to you. I just wanted to read
Yeah,
it
and then
out so
send
that it was.
Yeah, and then send it to us. And we can-
Okay, and then A4, replace mayor and supervisor with leadership team, which I think was what came up before.
Yeah.
Same kind of idea.
Yeah, it's that same
Well,
one.
we already dealt with this earlier
Yeah,
in the section.
Yeah,
It's the
okay.
exact same one.
A5 already exists, omit this item. Let's see. Provide, that says provide a link to town meeting minutes on village website.
And
And
number
then
six,
what was the last
number
one?
6
It
It
already
says to
exists.
omit
Why do we-
A5. It already exists.
Yeah, it's already,
Okay.
it's duplicated.
And then it says A8 and A9 omit entirely. And those are established guidelines for cooperation between village and town, both generally and with respect to specific issues and services, and designate village reps to attend meetings of community service organizations such as the school board. So is that because that already happens, is she saying to?
No,
omit
it doesn't
that?
already happen. I think that
Yeah.
one's really important.
Okay, so,
Right.
We gotta start attending these other meetings or we're gonna get more large
Okay.
fire engines. before
And it
we
already
know about it.
happens.
okay, so, well, she says,
Well, but how do, do we want to address the town ignoring the village in terms of
Yeah.
site plan?
In a comprehensive plan?
Yeah, for things in the future.
What are you saying here?
So, you know, I think we need to ensure somehow that there's more than cooperation, but coordination between the town and the village in future site plan reviews of town property.
Yeah.
So, but
Because
A
we
doesn't
need
speak to this.
specific
Yeah.
The town ignores.
You need
That's what I'm
site
saying,
plans that are
I
gonna
think
impact
it
the
should be
village.
added somewhere.
Oh, okay, so
Okay.
that's the
It's
eliminate,
Spiegel
that's
Center.
where.
Right.
Okay.
Number one,
What?
didn't happen at Spiegel Center.
No, I know.
That's
what
what
she's
it is.
bringing up.
Right,
how would, so
So
how would
how
that
can
fit
we
in?
word that?
Yeah,
I'll think about it.
okay.
Oh,
think
wait, no,
everyone
wait,
happens.
everybody read 10 before we start hopping on.
What does that say?
That's the Spiegel Center right there on 10. Might be, could use some wordsmithing.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
it's not, there
It's
was
not
clear
clear.
communication.
It's not just, yeah.
I know that,
Well,
but
decision
so,
is
wait,
just-
let's take 10 and words,
Okay.
you know what I'm
Say
saying?
communication and coordination.
Because I hear what you're saying,
Yeah.
so we just gotta, so,
If some other entity exists
You
in our
guys can do
village,
that,
like the
right.
fire
Yeah,
department.
okay,
so
Right,
the
yes.
town,
Janet, yes, Peggy also said that, add the fire department here.
and where are we here?
Well,
Sorry.
I think she says it generally, though maybe it was under 10, I don't know, because it's right under where she had 10. But I think the issue is making sure communication is
Yeah,
better between the fire department.
yeah,
And so I'm not totally sure where that goes, but I
It's
think
not
maybe it is the standard method of communication between, I think she's trying to put that there, I don't know if it goes there
so
or
we'll
somewhere else,
let
but
that in.
the fire department
Yeah,
I
is,
don't think it's just communication, I think it's, we have someone attend the meetings, so we know what's going on,
Right.
so we can raise the red flag and wave it right.
And I think
sooner.
that came up earlier, does it under 9? Am I correct?
Right,
So
right,
that's in?
okay.
yeah.
Yeah, do not delete 9.
No, we're not
No,
deleting
no.
9. We
Peggy
deleted,
suggested
yeah, she did, so-
deleting 9.
oh, no,
No.
we delete 4 and 5, am I correct?
No,
No,
just
Only
5.
5.
Only 5,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Well, 4's already covered before.
Four is a duplicate.
4
Yeah,
is 4 and 5 are both
it is-
duplicates in
It
the
is
same.
delete, okay.
4 and 5 could.
They're
What
both
section
duplicates.
was that? Okay. Is it referring to something else or no? I can't remember what
We
it
have
is.
that in your other sections where it's a citizens communication, that's what 4 and 5 are.
Yeah, number 4 is under communicating with the
Engage
residents.
in
The
citizens.
residents.
Engaged citizens is in that section.
So it would be fine under there, right? should we
Yeah,
take it
that's
out
really
of
fair.
here?
I
and
think it
just-
fits here rather than
You think it fits here?
I think it's.
Why don't we
gonna go,
duplicate it in
so
both places?
Keep it,
Okay.
keep it in both.
Then,
Well,
you know,
then number
It's sort of
four,
belt and suspenders then. you
four
know?
has to parallel what we're putting in the earlier section, because this is not the same.
Right.
Okay, so
Close,
step,
but
we'll
not-
just
Okay.
step on both.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
okay.
not.
Not five? Five's
I
out.
will vote it.
Five is really out, stat is
Yeah.
four.
Okay, and then, the last thing for this section, Peggy says, should add an action item such as clarify that village codes apply to all properties in the village, including other municipalities, except
Yes.
school districts, including town and fire department properties not used in the business of firefighting. And then there's parentheses, the Wadman's house.
Yeah.
This is true intermunicipal
Well, that's
cooperation.
been an ongoing problem.
Is that a?
That's what we're getting at.
Yeah, we are getting at that.
Okay,
We really
Yeah.
want that.
that's not a separate action item, it's just making sure that all of these
Yeah.
capture
If
that.
you don't have it as a
or-
separate action item, then
Well,
Is it not
no,
captured?
we're gonna work on 10 to address.
To address what she just said.
Okay,
Right.
and I'll send
Because-
you this language,
Because she's,
I'll forward it so
we're all
that
in
you have
agreement
it.
on that. I mean, that's an issue.
using an
that's
example.
really an issue.
Yeah, but we can't, we're not gonna do specific
So
call-outs,
it's no
because I
longer-
agree with what
right.
Peter said, you know, you can't be like,
But it's no longer gonna deal only with communication.
No,
yes, that's why we just said earlier,
Yeah.
we're gonna copy it,
Okay.
maybe.
Thank you.
Separate. Yeah.
Okay,
Okay,
is there anything else up to 51?
and then I'm gonna write it expand with, oh, you do the Peggy's, okay.
And then, let me just make sure 12 didn't have anything.
I think in 10, the method of communication to enhance
Mhm.
coordination between jurisdictions.
Okay.
Okay, so the next section, 50.
But it says
50.
related to land use and development.
They'll expand on that.
We're gonna redo this whole.
And then we'll bounce it back to you guys to make sure we've got everything you're
Right.
talking about.
Alright, so the next section is like 52 to
Very short, I know.
55
This one.
or something.
Yeah.
We really worked on those, the first two paragraphs.
Okay,
Because they're,
It's a hot
The
mess.
left, page 51.
Yeah. We're on page
That-
52.
That word development shows up in 51B3.
All right, let's go back to the
Okay.
origin. I'm
So
sorry.
I know we were trying to get rid of the word development. It says coordinate future development plans with the town in gateway areas and regional corridors.
where are you?
51,
D3 on 51.
Oh, we're back on
She's back on that,
Okay.
yeah.
because we were, last week we were pretty strong about the word development, or whatever it was.
I actually, in this instance, maybe development isn't the right word, but I think what it's getting at is that anything that's immediately outside of our village, when you come in, whatever, you know, the town is gonna develop. So I'm thinking that's more about what they're doing, and we need to be part of that. Am I don't know, maybe that's how I interpreted that.
There's a lot going on right over the bridge right now.
Yeah. Yes, and
It
that's,
says such as Mother Map, yeah.
yeah.
Every time you turn around,
It's
there's
just that,
something new.
I'm not sure that coordinate
Yeah,
future development plans.
The language is not
Yeah.
strong enough.
Correct,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
because it's private property, so,
Mhm.
Well, it's private property in the village too, so it's not.
well, for
who owns
example, the
it.
traffic impact alone
Yeah.
Huge.
isn't isolated, it is 100% holistic. This is what came out of our
yeah.
transportation plan, that if the call center's gonna build offices in the back and expand that center, and it's in the town, the village better have a say in that, because that traffic's gonna come through the village. So how do we,
So is that, yeah, I'm not sure that coordinating the
Yeah,
development.
how do we
plan
I'm
create
trying to
says
think
that.
of the right
how do we create the
words to-
language for
right,
that?
yeah.
That's,
Not
you
sure
know.
what it is, but, you know, I mean, just think of the
We looked
think
at
of
this.
the process.
Decisions shouldn't be made without us being.
Right, we need to be a stakeholder.
Oh, but
Maybe,
it's
but I don't know.
okay.
I'm sorry, but you need to think of the process. When
Yeah.
somebody like Nori wants to do something,
Mhm.
there's a process that he follows
Mhm.
with the town.
But he
So
does.
how does the village fit
Yeah.
into that process, if it does? I mean, somewhere.
Well,
Formally or
I do know what
informally.
happened,
Yeah.
you know,
We
in
know
other
what
words,
happens.
Nori, you know, the mayor wrote a letter, a really strong letter that no one ever saw outside, you know, in other words, it goes to the communicating. He wrote a really excellent letter about the impact of traffic isn't isolated, it is holistic, and what's gonna happen in the village.
I get all that.
So, how do we participate in
How do
somebody
you-
else's
Is it formal,
process?
is it informal, how
I
do you
know,
get
how do we
into
do
somebody
that?
else's process?
How do we do
Become, you know, engaged in the town's
Well, that's why
development
we have to
processes or
attend
something, you know,
town's
there needs to
meetings.
be a way to,
And
wordsmithing it, but
Yeah,
that's what
so
you were
I'll
trying to
just
get at,
let's
right?
start out with-
At
So
one
we'll start
time-
out with participate and go, okay,
Participate,
and then
okay.
we'll wordsmith it, cause
and then we'll all look
we
at it
need
again.
stronger action words. is
At
what
one
we
time,
need.
I thought we had, you know how we said we ought to have people attend the fire department meetings in the
Mhm.
school?
Mhm.
Well, I thought at one time we said we ought to have people attend the town board meetings.
Mhm.
I'm not sure it's there anymore. Because if we have someone who has signed up to attend all the meetings, then they can raise their hand and say, hey, by the way, the town's now talking about.
But by that time, the process is
Process,
already
yes,
underway.
yes.
See, we,
Not that it's a problem to know about it, but I think you're talking about being involved early on. And I think it's really important that you keep gateway areas in your,
Oh,
in
yeah.
your communication
Yeah.
thing,
Yeah.
because
Mhm.
it's not feasible to be involved in everything.
Yeah.
right,
Just the ones that are going to happen.
Well, the problem is, for
anything that's
example,
village adjacent, really.
would you call the new Y in a gateway?
No,
No. And is that going to affect the village? Yes,
Absolutely, yeah.
significantly. And we are not, we aren't talked to and we are not involved. And
No.
so it's
We have
these
no way.
regional things that affect the village, the traffic that comes through the village. I know the town has
What
numbers.
if we
Maybe it's
put
also
for number
large.
3, keep informed and stay engaged in future development plans discussions with the town and gateway areas.
But if we don't even know they're
That's
doing
not
it.
strong.
That's what it says, keep informed, then we have to.
Yeah, I'll jot down those thoughts, cause we're kind of, you know, wordsmith
That's what you really-
where you're going, yep, you bet,
Start
okay.
off.
But that's a good point.
That is, yeah, otherwise.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, oh, good.
And then what's
Okay.
gonna happen with the other?
Okay.
It's gonna be a church.
Let's move
Yeah,
on.
what
Wait,
church?
David, did you
And
have
again, that's the
anything in this
town,
section
so-
or no?
Was that,
I just wanted to keep
Yeah,
going.
let's close out this
We have like
section.
half an,
anything
yeah.
else in that section?
Anything else? No.
Peter.
Peter, I can't see him down there. Sorry, Peter.
So on all of these plans that go on, there are formal lines of communication that are established within the municipality. So if you're gonna develop something on one way, you have to talk to this board and that board and whatever. So I think that some language here that encourages or otherwise creates a formal input by the village into the
That's a
town plan.
Good line.
Kind of like a seeker input,
Right.
you know.
So you create, so when they say you have a does design review have a comment on this plan, right? They also ask whether or not the village has a comment on the plan.
Yeah.
Mhm,
yes.
mhm.
Mhm.
Or conversely, the
Well,
town,
they
that-
could also
just say that
have,
it's,
you know, development review committees
Yeah,
that, for most projects.
Mhm.
And that's where input comes from the DPW and
Mhm.
the
So
county,
maybe
you
that's what
know,
we do.
various-
So
so
that-
maybe we
so then
identify
that would be,
specifically
that would be a
development
directive,
committees.
that would be a directive by the village
Formal
by the
input
village
that goes
board
back
to
to
the
the
leadership
developer.
team.
Peter, what, say that again, please?
Directive by the village board
Mhm.
through the leadership team.
Mhm.
Mhm.
We want this, right?
Mhm. Yeah, I like the idea of formalizing.
Yeah.
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 I mean,
That's
otherwise,
the way
it's
to
not
formalize
bad.
it.
Otherwise, it's Bob's letter. Here's what
It goes into the
Bob-
ether, that's what I was saying, so that's
Okay.
good action item.
Yeah, excellent.
Because he wrote a great letter.
Thanks, Peter.
Which nobody read.
Okay, should we move on to 52 now? We can get through the next 10.
We get through a
10
lot.
minutes.
Nothing.
Nothing, okay. Tom did have something.
Okay,
For 52 to 54, he just says, "This section is the result of voting with dots at the December 1st public input session. Public input is vital, but it's not enough. If we want to call out priority action items, they should be thoughtfully selected by the comp plan committee, informed by the votes from the public. In past meetings, I've questioned the need for this section. However, I now think the plan is so comprehensive that it's overwhelming. We need to have priorities to help with implementation." Did you guys speak to that when you recopied? Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll bounce all
I
that.
don't have anything
We're
else.
gonna bounce it all back to you, because that was like,
Sticky dots are.
yeah, that was
Okay.
bad.
Did
That was sticky
Bonnie
fever.
or
Life only started when the consultants came around.
Bonnie or Janet or Peter, did you have anything on
Could I
this?
just
That's
clarify
your
what
big
you're doing
consultants.
on this page? What is it that
We're
you're?
reworking these two paragraphs.
The previous.
Oh, the previous.
Yeah.
Right.
And we'll, present it to.
And then we're gonna bounce it back to everybody.
one comment.
Sure.
Based on our experience with what they've given us for the comprehensive plan, it just increases in my mind the need for us to see what they've done on the code. Because we have
I don't
no, I
disagree.
have no idea what they're
Yeah.
doing under the code. And for them to go further without us seeing, it's not that I don't trust them, but look what they gave us. And now we're relying on them to rewrite the code. Makes me very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So this is an addition, in addition to the priority, an additional priority,
And,
No, I think,
no,
No,
just a comment?
Yeah,
Just a-
just
that's just a comment.
commenting.
Oh.
All
Just a
right,
comment.
so are we on page 55, 56? Or did you guys have something else on 52, 53, or 54? Did anybody else? Or
I added
55?
one on page 54.
54, okay.
I see heritage tourism.
The priority implementation plan, you know, nobody's gonna look at anything except this page, probably, all those pages we went through. The one that says community of diverse engaged citizens, I wrote, establish a citizen committee structure to serve both as advisory committees and action definition and implementation.
is that
It doesn't-
something
it
new, or
doesn't-
did you pull that from previous? Because these are all action items pulled from previous sections, right?
We don't know where they pulled them from.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we
They're
do.
the dots and then
Yeah, there's
the-
the policy, and that's where
Yeah.
they came from. These are the ones that are,
This is
How
what
did
they
they
So
decide.
kind of
decide?
stuff that rose
But
up to the
when they
top.
told us how they decided these were the priorities, this came out of the
Public
second-
input.
The public
Yeah.
input, that one second
Yeah.
section where
Uh-huh.
two-thirds as many people came as the previous
Yeah.
one.
we may not agree that these are the most,
Right, we may not
And then
agree.
So I
It's
think
a
that's
priority.
exactly what Tom and Peggy both said, so I think everyone agrees, like, the comp plan committee needs to weigh in if
I-
these are the
yeah,
priorities.
I agree, I think
Right.
that's a larger discussion with the whole group.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, so can we flag this?
Yeah,
I'll
let's
also,
flag it
like-
and just say group discussion, needs clarification.
right, but we're not creating new plan,
No.
new things,
No,
new actions.
no, because this is about what came out of everything.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, great, I'll mention that to Tom too. All right, page 55, or should we move on to the next section?
So we may move.
All right, 56, 57.
I guess I need to just ask a question about this community enhancement strategy section. Remind me, this section, how we got to this section. Somebody explain to me that?
Oh, with the, identifying the character, wait, on which page am I on? It's
This
like-
section
okay,
serves
here we
to
go.
highlight the place-making elements that
Okay,
form
stop.
the
No, don't go
historic,
there.
walkable community fabric of
Read,
Right.
copy edit.
Okay.
This is really
It's a
bad.
hot mess.
All right, so you guys are gonna do a lot of work after this.
Yeah, no, this is
Okay.
crazy train.
Readable language.
Okay,
Yeah,
was there anything besides it being,
she's in love with Jared's, just so you
No.
know.
I guess I'm still, whatever, maybe when we go through this, I'll have a better sense
Yeah,
of
on page,
why we.
I still have a problem with some of
56.
the character areas because they seem to include things that aren't similar, but.
You know what, because this was a really like whacked out kind of edit that we had to do. Would it make more sense then for us, because we're almost done with the whole edit, to like give you just the whole cleaned up enchilada, and then you guys work from that?
I still think it's worth going through this. but-
No, but I'm just saying, you know, before we go, get into the weeds on, well, I
Yeah.
don't even, do you know what I mean? So on the content side, yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's,
It's bad.
okay. Tom had some comments on the map on 59, but they're not huge, it's just a little bit of, it's like add a triangle for a park and change some of the dots and stuff, but you guys can't do that, right?
that's
So-
for the,
Well,
Yeah.
any
it's,
graphics.
we need to be able to have black and white versions of these things, and this would not turn into
Oh,
black
that's
and white.
right. And didn't we talk about, was
Yes.
it, we talked about that, and then wasn't it about, and some of the colors were so close, they wouldn't reproduce?
Right.
And would we want to, instead of just
You
have
could have polka
solids,
dots, you
you
could
could
have
stripe
stripes.
it, we talked about that,
Yeah,
remember,
we did,
cross
but they-
hatching?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a flag, okay, so I'm gonna just
So
write
to
it down.
challenge them then, to put it in a way that's readable in black and white as
And
well
that's-
as color.
Yep, and that's why they're
Something like this.
consultants and they need to do it, okay, no, read,
Must be black and white.
must
And
be-
they use,
must be
they
black
use
words.
things on here like 2A and 2B with no definitions
What page
as to
are you
what,
So
I'm just
that-
looking at the map.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's it.
2A and 2B.
Okay, so it needs
I
clarify
can't
the
understand
legend.
how, what they are and why they're different.
I
And
didn't
they're showing you there's two parcels that are under
That was
that.
so bad.
Well, what is that?
They don't deal with four.
So, two is parks and open spaces, and there's one here and there's one here.
Oh, that's
More,
what
there's lots more parks and
Why
open
would they all
spaces
be
than what
two?
shows up
But they
here.
didn't do it with number 4 and there's 3
Because
on it.
they talk about 2A.
Yeah, they do.
And then they
You're
talk
right.
about
I know, but what
2B.
about the town of Pittsford Park and Lone Woods and Spiegel Center? There's a whole bunch of parks that do not
Right, that
show
was
up
what
on here.
Tom
So
mentioned,
he was
was
just
like,
saying,
you need
if
to
you
add
want to
some
sign
more.
as park area?
Well,
That's
he's
what
like,
he
you need a green spot where there's these, some of these green park,
Okay,
small
so-
pocket park kind of things, like.
This looks like we have no
Pittsburgh.
parks, and actually.
Clarify the legend
Well,
by
it feels
adding
really
in
not
parks.
park either.
Include more.
Yeah, the map, I
It
think, in
feels
general,
not
is
here.
telling.
Park.
But the legend
Just a
of
park.
They
Yeah,
all-
the map itself.
Well, but yeah,
Somebody
put it on
wants
legend.
it.
Yeah, well, he's saying
Yeah.
use the number 2 image,
Oh, okay,
that-
I see what he's saying.
but make
Gotcha,
sure that
yes.
you're including
Include
those.
parks, yeah.
Like, he specifically said Port of Pittsford
Right.
specifically,
Yeah.
but there are
And there's a
other
pocket
There's
of
lots
spots.
of them.
Yes.
Yeah, we need them all in.
So,
I had that thought, but it
Yeah,
became clear.
yep.
And the
Okay.
mixed use office and residential, number 8, it also has an A and a B that aren't defined.
They are
No,
in the
they
narrative.
They are in the narrative.
In the narrative they're defined, when you read through it.
it is
refers you back
confusing
to-
when you look at the
Yeah,
map.
but-
Like,
But all it's saying is
yeah.
that these.
They aren't really
have the
similar.
same
Characteristics.
What, sometimes they combine things that, to me, I don't understand why they're similar.
Well, this is,
Maybe more
Discussion.
under number 9, mixed use canal front, where it has A, B, and C. And those areas are so different that it's hard for me to understand why they're in the same group. So,
Number 2, I would add in after parks and recreation, open space, 2B down on the right-hand corner is Lily Fields, it's not a park or open space.
Oh, that's a good point.
And the rec center should show as a
Yeah.
recreational area, we just,
yeah.
okay,
So
Got
it would be parks.
parks,
open space.
recreation, and
a
open
ballpark
space.
is not a park?
well, not as
It's not a
it's,
public
not as
park,
it's
it's
shown
a
here, but
commercial
he's saying
use,
if you
it's
add
baseball
rec
fields.
to the
It
definition.
differentiates
Yeah,
from a
okay.
passive park.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
And I think for purposes of the map, it's a good point.
Yeah,
that
I do
you
too.
can- You can
All
see
right.
a little bit of the different
Yeah.
usage.
I'm good.
It's fine.
Okay, so then we got 9B, 9C. I'm not sure. Is there a
The
9A?
75,
Where's 9A?
Good question.
Mixed use canal front, there's a 9B and there's a 9C, but there's no 9A.
Yeah, I think there
Right,
used to
is
be, and they changed it into part of 8A or something, and so, you're right, it is,
It's,
Right.
it's,
It's
It
a-
goes like
Missing,
that.
it,
yeah.
it needs work, that's all.
Yeah, it does.
And then we have to be sure cross-references and the text match up with this.
Right.
Yes,
That's the whole.
and they don't right now.
That's the whole last
Yeah.
read-through. to
That's
it.
their guy.
Yeah. they're
So
gonna have to
9A and B, and they have to match it.
yeah.
Oh, and then my favorite is page 61,
Okay, hang on, my favorite, okay.
yeah.
Really, black and white.
So Tom also had some comments on 60.
Oh, okay, let's go back.
Before you go to 61, he says, timeline needs a title. Are these milestones of village historic
Yeah, what are
preservation?
they? Yeah.
Question mark. Items 1, 2, and 5 suggest that it is the purpose of the timeline, but items 3 and 4 don't work as it is. And then he has instead, how about, and he has a suggested dates and things. So I could send that to you, or I could read it out, but
Well, like it's got the
Send
village
it.
district boundaries, historic district boundaries expanded, but it doesn't have that an historic district was established on this timeline.
Isn't
It
that
should
a
be on
really
there,
historic
absolutely.
designations?
Actually, it
timeline?
does. The first
Where?
Pittsburgh Village Historic
This
District,
time.
1984.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right.
Yeah. And then it was expanded.
What'd they do in the
2016.
60s? I thought they did something in the 60s.
No,
No.
not on the national register.
Okay,
Yeah, Historic Pittsburgh.
but didn't
Yeah,
that,
but he
isn't that
has
when we
stuff going back, he
established
says-
APRB and all those
places-
things, wasn't it in the 60s?
I don't know.
in the 60s, Tom has the Phoenix Building restored and historic Pittsburgh formed, adding a photo
Yeah, I
of the
mean, there
little
was
house, so
significant
maybe,
stuff happening in
maybe
the
has some
sixties.
stuff happening.
I think these are designations, aren't they?
I
I
don't know.
It's, I guess, how we wanna frame
I
it.
mean, it's when they, he's the guy that
Andy
owned the
Wolf.
Phoenix building.
Andy Wolf.
Andy Wolf.
He's
When
one
Andy
that
Wolf,
started
all that
historic
stuff he
history.
did in the sixties, that's when historic Pittsburgh.
So
But
let's-
that's what
look at-
talks
we'll look
include,
at
so
Tom's
I'll send
comments.
it and you
Yeah.
can see.
I think these are designated historically.
But it's not clear even
I
for
understand,
reading
I
it.
think that's what the tie-in
Yeah.
is, it's gonna be a history or timeline of historic designations. It starts out Andy Wolf's building, which was a stagecoach station and stuff, a tavern. And then,
So it should
the
be
district and the
timeline for
village.
designations of significant buildings,
Yeah.
historic.
it's not just significant, it's that they were designated, the whole, you
But
get
there
down
were
to
some
the last
significant
two.
things that don't.
It's
I
big
don't know what
areas,
that
it's
means,
village
they were
district.
designated, they're not individually.
No,
This
they're
is
not.
milestones.
I don't know, so this needs
Bob
to,
Corby will know, I think these are historic designations that physically, historically, nationally were designated, Andy Wolf. and
But if you're really talking about,
okay, we don't know.
Bob will know.
Okay.
That's possible.
Okay,
These are on the-
now
we'll say
We
yes,
need a
Bob.
title.
Yes,
Don't
Bob,
need a
and
title,
Yeah,
that's all.
need a title, and that will clarify what direction.
Has to be.
Okay, page 61, which we have just about started to go to, Janet, you said my favorite.
well, it's nice in that it kind of shows me where the historic district boundaries are, but, and I guess it doesn't include pickle factory area or any of that area, is what this says. It doesn't include the village green.
It's that little, it's that,
What is this
rectangle
little
on the
thing
web
right
or-
here? That's the, isn't that called village green?
Yeah, that would
It
be,
doesn't include it?
that's okay, thanks for
It's
coming.
infill. Yeah. It's infill, it's not, there are no buildings of significance.
Yeah, forget designation.
Okay.
Our APRB deals with the whole village, right?
This isn't about the APRB, I think it's literally just showing
What's in the
what
historic district.
buildings were
All right,
included
why is this,
of significance.
why is this in here?
Well, it shows that Courtney Circle, for example, those houses are not in the historic district.
Mhm.
That whole subdivision is outside.
Yes,
This is the
all
village.
about- It's all about,
Historic preservation.
And the light gray is not in the historic district.
So this is formally
But,
designated.
Yeah.
That's all, Jan,
Just
all
a
I'm saying
reference.
is this is formally designated.
it's like if you're reading this section about historic preservation and you want to know visually how much of our village is designated, you look at this.
okay, but I'm somebody and I live over in this area beyond the high school.
Mm-hmm.
And I say, well, how come I have to go to the APRB to make sure my house stays looking like a sixties house?
This is not.
Because you live in the village, this has nothing to do with the APRB, zero. This is on the National Register
I
of
know,
Historic
but we're
Places.
talking about,
State, New York State,
This is,
New York State Registry.
no, this is National
This is-
Register.
This is federal
This is
registry.
National Register of Historic Places.
I think that's correct.
but it says, the title of this section is our historic context
Right. Mm-hmm.
of the village.
Right.
So if it's our historic context, wouldn't that include, well, by the way, in the sixties, we did a typical suburban thing, and that was part of our historic context, and by the way, we did these other things, and those are part of our historic context?
But for purposes of, no, I think we're all in agreement, but for purposes of this map, which is showing what is currently in the historic district, even though Courtney Circle has its own period of significance and time of significance, it isn't included at this point in the historic district. Someday it could be.
Well, are we saying that anything that comes after this, in this historic section, if I live in some of those areas, I know I can just ignore it?
No,
You still have
no one's
zoning
saying any
code
of it.
that applies regardless of historic district, it's what the
Well,
code
I don't know
says.
what's in the zoning code right now, so.
Well, we have one, it hasn't changed yet. It has certain requirements.
I'm not sure kind of what you're getting at. I'm not,
Well,
just,
not either.
National Register of
It's
Historic
kind of
Places,
in the middle of-
historic districts have nothing to do with zoning code, only elected officials do. And they if the district is recognized, the elected officials develop the code to support the district, period.
It also has implications on grant applications.
I mean, I'm not, I don't have a problem with any of this, I think it
it's
just
good.
talks
I
about.
think it needs a title, and Tom said the same thing,
Yeah.
so maybe
Yeah.
we could add a title. Because
Needs a title.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's an ask Bob probably.
Mhm.
Okay.
And it also has to show as of 2016. You know what would be interesting too, would be to actually have the initial, another color showing the initial historic district that was defined, and then the expansion in 2016.
But I think that's what this timeline's gonna show, I'm not sure.
I'm talking about on the map.
I
that's all
understand,
I'm talking
I don't know
about.
if it adds anything to
Oh,
tell,
I think it's good for somebody to see that.
it creates confusion.
Oh, okay, then let's leave it out.
I mean, where are we
Are we almost
today,
done?
we're
What time
going
is it?
forward.
Okay, we're almost done.
My only comment on 63 is CIS, and acronyms you're talking about, why I don't know, I can never recall what CIS stands for, spell it out,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
The other
I
thing
think we
is,
did that.
this is the only place-
It's confusing.
it's the only place where we call it the Architecture Preservation and Review Board. Every place else we call it the APRB.
Yeah, that's a.
We've got to update that, right?
Yeah, yeah. We're trying to catch all that because it's so inconsistent all the way through. And I say when in doubt because it's a big document, you were saying that.
Right.
You know, even further on, spell it out again,
Right.
let people know.
I
But you never know.
That's sort of stuck
And on the
with
next page, it says there's 4 approaches, but really only define one on page 63.
Oh, I'm sorry. Page 63.
We show 4 approaches: preservation, rehabilitation, restoration, reconstruction. But we don't deal with them all on an equivalent basis. We really
No,
only
we
talk
don't.
about rehab.
They're not,
We don't talk about restoration or
Well,
preservation.
read what it's under rehab and why it is. He's saying there's 4 things, and read what it says under rehabilitation.
Mhm.
We'll rely almost solely on the rehabilitation,
Mhm.
right.
because we're not gonna have a lot of, reconstruction, we hope.
I think though we also put in addition, this is where we said, and renovation, because even if you take a look, for example, at the Masonic Lodge, which is,
Oh, gosh,
You know,
did you
black
look at
on
it today?
okay, but anyway, just to continue my thought,
What's wrong?
just, if I could, can I just finish my thought, please?
Yeah.
Okay. The Masonic Lodge is undergoing a rehabilitation, but it also has restoration for parts of it.
It also
So
has
is
new
it
construction.
But yes, but I'm just saying that
They
you
can't
can
use the
have,
footprint.
you can have all things, 3 things happen in one building.
Okay.
What happened today was they put the driveway in.
All right, so
Okay, so,
Tom also mentioned, okay, he said more
What
info
page?
needed, same page, 63.
Okay.
More info needed on the 10 standards mentioned in the last sentence, or don't mention them. And he did some copy editing on that first sentence that we were just talking about above, of the 4 approaches to historic preservation,
Oh,
Pittsburgh
that's what
Village
you
relies
said.
on it
Yes.
strongly, so it
Yes.
sounds like you already did, but.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay, and then
That's-
we're incorporating his stuff too, yeah.
And then, I don't know how far ahead you all are. If
No,
you
we're
have more, but
right here.
66, he says delete the page.
6-6,
I
Yeah,
love that. Oh, the urban.
Oh, the trans-
Oh, I really
I
don't
think
care
it's
for
kind of came
that.
up last time too.
He doesn't
You know,
like
we're
it.
like,
I hate
Like,
this.
really,
We don't read
I
it.
know.
It does not fit.
I mean, we copy edited the page
Yeah.
so people could look at it in a different way.
I don't think this adds anything.
Do you think it could just be taken out?
Hmm.
No, they won't be happy
No.
because
Well,
You know
let's
what?
ask if there's any-
Let's do
I don't
this.
like it.
Why don't
Uses that
we'll
after.
bounce the copy editing back to clean it up, then we'll let the lecture, bring
Yeah.
it back to the whole group again,
Yeah.
because that's a big thing to
so
take.
make a note somewhere that we question the inclusion of that page.
Yeah,
And we
Yeah.
might be missing
Yeah.
something around this table
Yeah.
that needs to
but
be.
that's not
here,
saying
but
bring it back
I
to the
don't
group
think it
again.
has.
None of us can't figure it out.
I guess 67 speaks to the same thing, it's just not the textbook picture, so maybe there's a way to shorten, it's.
Oh, yeah, there's a
Like
lot of wages.
This page is pretty much, this picture is almost the same, but way
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
pertinent to our area, so maybe there's a way to
we're a little
combine
tiny
those two
village,
pages
and
or
it's-
something.
What we could do is just define the urban rural transect, talk about the Jelani, model,
Yeah.
and then go right into this.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know.
I don't know, because when you look at this down here, especially V4 and V5,
I thought it was interesting.
What about,
I'm familiar
What are
with
you
the model,
saying?
and I think
Yeah.
it is interesting,
Yeah.
a way of,
The problem is this refers to this guy's transect road, which is on the prior page.
Andre Delani.
So we gotta figure out how to squeeze it down and make it perfect
Yes, and
to
that's
us.
copy editing, so
Yeah.
we'll do that and bounce it back
It's
to the
really
whole group.
consultants, I think,
Yeah.
tell us substantively.
Mhm.
Great.
Okay.
Actually, I really like the pictures they use and the improper transitional treatment and
Yeah,
so
I
on
know.
between neighborhoods.
Those are
That's
good.
the concept.
Yeah, but I
I
don't
like
want to
having
go
it there.
to Webster, I don't really want to highlight.
Well, we
other
don't have to
communities.
say it's Webster, yeah.
Well, it is, though.
Whatever.
I don't want to zing somebody in our plan, there's no need to do it.
Oh, I'm going to Vermont or
It's
something.
just, no sense.
Sure, we can find something in the town.
You find something.
Yeah,
I'm sure
I
there's
think
something
they-
else.
Yeah, let's sing the town.
Closer to the Brighton.
No, let's sing the town.
The town has those
Town
nice
is
apartment
stuff.
buildings right next to the.
Okay, so we've
Okay.
officially made it to 66.
Let's keep
We
going
can
if we
keep
can.
going if you want for 5 or so more minutes.
What do people have when next changes? I don't have anything until page 73.
Tom says on 69, which is currently empty, he says, needs to address green space identified in CES map.
Yes.
Include Harvey survey results for question 22 on page 18 of report, which I don't know what that means, but,
Oh, that was the village survey.
okay, so have we
The
seen
results
this?
have not been published.
I
Oh, I think
think
it's
I
on,
look it up.
I think it's on Trello,
Isn't
maybe,
it?
yeah.
It's on Trello.
Okay, so green space in 69, 70, or in 71, those will get filled in somehow?
Yeah, and then,
My question is 73, the chart on the right-hand page, I don't know if it's talking about townhousing, if that's village, or what the statistics are applied to.
you said
Or is it-
73?
Or is this national?
73.
73, yeah, okay.
It says Pittsburgh Housing.
Yeah, Tom also said Pittsburgh Village
Yeah.
Housing Supply, it needs a,
Right, you're,
So
Yeah.
we need clarification, I'd
Yeah.
like to be the village, or I toss it out.
okay.
Because we're not gonna have a dramatic change in housing.
What does
There's
this
a lot.
do for us? So let's look at what it says.
oh, I think that's germane.
But it says, as shown below, over 1/3 of US households in 2011 were looking for small lot. Where does it show that? And
That's what I mean, we don't have
We don't
space
need
to
this
develop
US
what
stuff.
people want.
right?
This would be more applicable to the town, we have land that's being developed, what kind of
Yeah,
housing?
so why don't we bounce it back to the consultant and say,
That's what I think.
where are we
Yeah.
going with it?
Yes.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Where's it
Where are you
from?
going?
Sounds
Yeah.
great.
This really has US,
Yeah.
town, and
Okay, great.
Consultant, explain.
It's interesting trends, but,
I wrote, is this village?
Doesn't help
but
us.
actually, in the middle, it says 2011 US owner preference.
Yeah. I know.
All right,
I don't
what's
know
the
what-
next
what that
page?
does
that-
for
And hang on, under
You want-
enhancement strategies, third bullet. Quote, complete street should be identified and defined, because
Okay.
that is a program,
Okay, great.
and that's nationwide.
And it's
Yeah.
not just all redevelopment projects.
You know, we took that up with
Okay.
all projects, we've already copied it, because
Okay.
we're right there with you, we're totally in sync on where you guys are going with that, trust me.
Yeah.
Okay.
We now hate gerunds.
No, hey, what?
Gerunds.
Oh.
Okay.
Same way with infill development opportunities. Did you also get rid of that one?
Where are we here?
I'm sure that's one.
Yeah, that sounds like we kind of
Right.
screened at that point.
Watching Linda look down, I was like, I forgot the keys to the.
I do on the one, make pedestrian lighting and sidewalk standard in residential
Which
It
streets.
should be on streets, not
Okay.
residential, it should be on all streets.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, just stuff like that, you know.
But is it, what does standard mean? Does standard mean they're all going to have the same
No, we
one?
took
Or
standard
Right,
out.
or
yeah.
require
We
like?
just said provide.
Provide, no, we just.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, it takes
Right.
away a
On all
connotation,
corners,
yes,
yes.
yes, yep.
Yeah,
So all the copy editing, okay,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
are there
we're
any
looking at
other
doing copy
big
editing that
ticket
we're agreeing
things that, there was one thing that came up from a neighbor and
Oh, okay.
another person on the committee, noise pollution. I don't know if this has ever come up, and like, we talked about where it could fit, but I think people perceive it differently. There's the sirens, there's traffic, ambient traffic noise, like this comes up a lot on our street. You can't
Sure.
sit on the front porch because
Well, yeah.
it's just
we're
so
so
loud,
late.
trucks,
Mhm.
you know, fire engine stuff. So does it fit in here? Is this, I mean, I know it's like late in the process, but is that a sustainability
Well,
thing? Is it a
it's
quality of
it's
life?
No, it is addressed in the code, for example,
Okay.
that, like with restaurants and music,
Yeah.
especially, it's,
I don't
It
have to
is
go,
as it
I don't
pertains
have to
to
go to town
businesses.
events, and I don't have to go to music events, they all come right to my
Wait, so
house.
is
by
it
that's
themselves.
close by.
Susan, is it, in the code, as it pertains to businesses like music, live music, or,
Yes.
but is it, like, it came up on my street because of the trucks, Jake's Breaks. I don't know enough
Yes.
about that, but like, can we prohibit the
They-
use
they are
and things
prohibited.
like that? They
They-
already are?
They already are prohibited in our
So what
code.
do we do?
What
Because
How do you
people
enforce
use
it?
that,
How do you
yeah.
enforce
Yeah, how do you
We have
enforce?
such an enforcement issue.
So,
Yeah,
okay.
Extreme enforcement.
You know, that's the thing, codes are only as strong as their
Yeah.
enforcement. So, yeah, it's in our code.
So that would solve the problem if Thursdays decides to have a band like they did last year where we sang along with it sitting in our backyard. Or if the town has a music or whatever kind of event across the
Typically,
canal.
you get a permit to do it.
They should be concerned about noise control.
I
They
mean,
really
there's a
are.
balance right now.
So
where
that,
people
that's
want-
like one-off things in my
Yeah.
mind that are, would be covered by the code, but I'm talking more about
Quality of life.
quality of life, like livability,
Right.
things that come up, like the siren and like traffic noise.
The sirens.
But I don't know,
Good
I
question.
mean, there's something I guess you could do about that,
There
but
is
traffic
something.
noise, I don't know what to do except lower the speeds
Right,
and
right,
try to,
Right,
but,
which we're trying to do.
and I don't know if it's big enough of an issue to include it, I guess is what I'm
But
bringing
that's
up.
also part of the active transportation plan to village-wide
Yeah.
lower the speed limits. Because you're
Yeah.
right, that does
Oh,
be that.
things
And
are
getting back to the code,
Yes,
there are certain specified decibel levels that are never to be exceeded
okay.
in the village, and you
And
have
they
to.
are.
Right, but then it's a
Enforcement.
violation of code, and then you call the Monroe County Sheriff, the sheriff comes down, they have a little decibel meter, and
Okay.
they, you know, I mean, I can just tell you, having been there,
Yeah.
you know, and not
Maybe we
even,
need a recommendation that tells people, call the Monroe County Sheriff.
well, that, yeah, that's,
Bring a
that's,
decibel
but that-
meter.
that's, you know, communication from your government and
Yeah, okay.
policy.
It sounds like it's not.
But I don't know, yeah, I
Right,
think it's
what you
important
do.
to
top of a.
You can have plaster walls in your
It's not a
house.
simple one for you.
Well,
74.
It's not in the house, it's outside for me, it's the street noise, it's, you have to yell when you're on the front porch. But, you know, we just don't hang out there, we hang around our back, but
There's
it-
also just the change in pitch when things go over the bridge.
Yeah.
So that must get to you.
yeah,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you can always tell, right?
yeah, that's interesting.
You know what's a new thing that I'm finding happening just very quickly? And when people who have newer cars that turn off when they're stopped at a light, all of a sudden you hear like 5 cars start up in front of my house
Oh, really?
Yeah.
because they're stopped at
Yeah.
the light,
Yeah.
you know? And it's really quiet and all of a sudden, you
Yeah.
know? I mean, it's just something different. I don't know that I'm particularly bothered by it, but it's clearly
So the
noticeable.
startup is noisier? are you
Well,
saying?
no, all of a sudden, you know, it's quiet because
Siren
the
and-
cars automatically stop
Right,
when
you
they're
turn
stopped.
the same energy, yeah.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden you know, everybody clicking
Yeah.
the car back on. Anyway, I think it should be brought up though,
Yeah.
because
Noise
nothing
pollution.
has been addressed that way, and I think the group maybe would.
Yeah.
I
You
just
know,
don't know where it would fit, I tried to look through and think, is it a sustainability, is it a, you know, I don't
It's
know.
quality of
It's-
life.
You know, there's like,
Environmental,
what
wherever we
section
put
is quality of
environmental
life,
is
is
part of
it, it's like,
Yeah.
you know, it's, I don't know,
I think you should bring it back to the group.
yeah, is it like
I mean,
economic
it's-
and
we
civic?
know
like,
it's
is
a
it-
word.
Where you live is
Environmental
someplace
somehow.
centric.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is
We're putting it
environmental.
down, but it's
It's not, it is
environmental.
environmental, I agree.
That
I
this
have
was-
a-
Mm-hmm.
I have a question.
I just can't.
I don't know if you
It
guys,
probably does in some places, you know?
you know how earlier in the package, the timeline shows? Did people give you the information about the things that we did, you know,
No,
before
we
the
didn't really formally
consultants?
get information, did we?
No.
Tom was gonna send that.
Well,
Tom was gonna send it
They
to
were
us.
given it. I don't know.
Okay.
Peggy
Tom-
was,
Tom
Peggy
can
was
send
gonna give some information about the forums.
Okay, well, somebody
And we
needs to
had
just,
4
whatever you guys
forums.
have, just send it, and
Yeah.
we'll incorporate it.
I'll send you all the stuff that people have sent me.
Yes.
And though some of it was don't do, so you've
Right.
already incorporated that, but
Right,
we
that's
wouldn't
the
need to go back and reference it.
Business roundtables.
And then all this is supposed to go into the plan? This,
Well, the time,
what is-
you can see
Just
from
a
that,
number of meetings.
this-
Yeah.
you can see from that
Okay.
the timeline.
Yeah.
Great,
That
and
would go,
so,
that would go in an
Okay.
appendix or something.
Okay.
Right.
all right, and then
Just
Tom
the
will be
time.
back on Friday, and then I guess there's another meeting on Monday, the
Right.
13th, to wrap this up hopefully.
What other pages of people?
That's not
have-
gonna wrap up.
Right.
That's
No.
so sad.